Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We are so glad to have each and every one of you with us as we get into the whistleblower game. Jason Sands is here, and we're glad to have him on this show for the first time to talk about what he knows about UFOs and non-human intelligence. Before we bring Jason in and get the show going, we are going to say hello to each and every one of you, including Race Fan in the gold medal position, SJ with a silver, Kitty Caddywhack with a bronze medal tonight, Hippie Deidre, how you doing? Attorney at Large, Michael Morris, Kitty Caddywhack, thank you for coming on in. Hi there, Laura Lobbs and Robert Lamoth, Road Flair and Frankie B, nice to see you. Mama Catherine, I love you, my dear. I hope you had a great week, and I hope you're going to have a great weekend as well. Scrolling on down, there's Ethanol and Jeremy Jones. How you doing? Eternity Eternal is here. Eternity Eternal will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Mel WD-40 is here, lubing us up for tonight's show, because you always want to go into a show nice and smooth. You don't want any of that rigidness when you're talking whistleblowers, that's for sure. Necessary Dialogue, how you doing? Little Timmy James, how you doing, buddy? Dave Tiger Williams, he'll drop the gloves for you. Kurt W75 is here. Kurt W will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. In the studio, Deanna Ann, how you doing, both of you? Thomas Rock, thanks for coming on in. Walter, good to see you. Operation Shutdown, Search and Destroy. Noble Patrick, good to have you all here tonight. Hillbilly Herb, thank you for joining us. Human Carl is here, a great veteran of the United States Air Force. Thank you for your service, Human Carl. We love you around here. Paul Demon, good to have you here. Little Cam over in YouTube chat. He did 1,500 jumping jacks, 6.5 minutes. He's ready. He's warmed up. Yennefer with a soft J. Chill Farm. Eva. And hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Nice to see you all here. Beverly Beatty, looking lovely and talented tonight. Area 51, thank you for coming on in. And let's see here. Super Crazy, thank you for joining us. Wise Ass McCoy, good to have you here. Ginger Turtle, thanks for coming on in. I'm Hardcore and Phineas, both over on X. Good to see you guys. Chill Farm, thank you for kicking off the super chat tonight. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. And thank you for your love. Jerry Lahane and Jeff Steve Garvey are here. Jeff Steve Garvey will hit a home run for you every single time. Xanos, thank you for coming on in. Les Paul Holland, Jordan Ashley, how you guys doing? Al Garay over on Twitch, 500 push-ups, 18 minutes. His arms are jacked, ready for tonight's show. Scrolling on down, let us say hello next to Pix. What's happening, my friend? And Lee the Bee, Super Knower. And who else is next? Summer Side of Life. Thank you all for coming on in. Gory Tiger, good to see you. Adam B, thanks for coming on in. JMJ12, thank you for joining us as well. Biofuel Brad, good to see you. as we continue on with our roll call here. Scrolling on down, Millennium, my man. Thanks for coming on in. Pat OC, welcome to SOR Chat. And Jeff Steve Garvey hitting a home run with that super chat tonight. Thank you, Jeff. Greatly appreciate your love of SOR. And we are caught up there. Let us start the radio side. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We're getting into whistleblowers tonight. Jason Sands is going to join us here momentarily. But first, we are in roll call right now on our YouTube side as we say hello to Stargazer. Thank you for coming on in. And want to remind everybody the super chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. And don't forget, you could shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. And I will also be in San Francisco for UFOCon 2025, happening the first week of April. Go to UFOCon2025.com. You can get your tickets there today. So let's check it on out. I'm looking forward to it. I want to see all of you there as well. So while we wait, do us a favor. Throw those horns up. Let's rock. Of Central British Columbia to you listening around the world. This, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our site as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a power show of interesting information for you going into the UFO world with whistleblower Jason Sands. He will join us here momentarily. Then in hour number 3, Swamp Dweller will join us for another spooky story. We'll follow that up with Lee Strauss and the Crypted Report. We first learned about Jason Sands just about a year ago this time on Spaced Out Radio, courtesy of the UFO Report, at that time with Courtney Marcassani. And now we finally get Jason Sands on the air with us. Jason is a retired U.S. Air Force veteran who has come forward as a UFO whistleblower, sharing his experiences related to unidentified aerial phenomena. He claims to have been part of a classified program that involved interactions with extraterrestrial entities. Sands has detailed his experiences in various interviews, including big ones like Joe Rogan's podcast that can be found on YouTube and on Spotify. In his accounts, Jason describes witnessing and participating in activities involving UFOs, including alleged encounters with alien beings. He has also discussed his involvement in a secretive program that purportedly included missions beyond Earth. These revelations have sparked significant interest and controversy within the UFO community and the public. However, his claims happen to be met with skepticism and scrutiny, with some questioning the veracity of the accounts. But we're going to hear from him. Let's have Jason tell his story right here on Spaced Out Radio. Jason Sands, it's been a year since you and I started communicating, but thank you finally for coming on Spaced Out Radio, my friend. How are you doing? We'll get you to unmute your microphone, my friend.
Yeah, it's been about a year, hasn't it? So, yeah, it's been a long trail. Back when we first started talking, I think, Dave, was just I had a few more wickets that I had to fulfill, getting through my legal things that I needed to do to go public. So, yeah, it's good to finally have all that behind me, and I'm able to get out there and talk to the folks.
How did you come to the decision to become a UFO whistleblower?
Well, a couple of different things happened. One was a news article that I saw, a triangular craft that I knew what it was in the news, and it was doing some nefarious stuff. And I had some concerns. I was thinking, well, if they're using the platform for this, this doesn't look right. That gave me some concern. Plus, I'd been carrying a heavy weight with me for many years about some of the work I had done at Dreamland, where I had heard on my telecommunications monitoring that there might be some things that the program folks needed to pay attention to, because there was a possible risk that they were running. And I'm hoping that they take some action, and that's another reason why, because I still have some friends that are still in the program, and I don't want to see them, endanger their life or even risk anybody else's. And that's the other reason why I came forward.
You just said a word. You got friends who are in the program. What is that program?
Well, it's a secretive program. It's called a waivered special access program. And that's what I was working in the 1990s. And that's the program that I'm speaking of. It's just the one that the Air Force runs to do some reverse engineering of exotic craft.
How does one get into one of these programs, Jason, after you join the military?
They literally handpicked me. That was the way it happened. I think they had their eye on me for a bit. I know my dad also had some exposure to strange special access programs and stuff when he and I would talk. Sometimes I would find out things that were quite similar between my father and I. So it might have been the fact that I have some family connection that is in these sorts of programs that helped them to make that decision. But to me, it felt more like I just got along with some of the folks that I was working with. They liked the way that I did some of my analysis, and I think that between being a team player and also just knowing the folks in the program, that's what got me in. So it wasn't like a formal application process for this. It was just them seeing my level of work and them being happy with it, and also getting along with them. And I think that's what mainly got me in the program.
During that program for yourself, you had some very exciting encounters that you're going to get into with us later on in the show. But my question to you is, how does one get into that? How does one all of a sudden decide that when you're approached, this is what you want to do? This is the road you want to take. Do you have a choice? Did you have the ability to say yes or no?
Yeah, that's correct. I could say yes or no. They didn't tell me exactly everything until after I'd said yes. And then I had to go through the process of getting a polygraph, where they dug up literally everything in my life. And you have to be willing to go through that, and also just sign the NDA when you got into the program. And of course, after a while, I felt like the only other thing that I could do to help my friends that are still in the program was to break my code of silence, really, because I felt there might be some fraud, waste, and abuse that came along. That's how it kind of started. Was just they asked me, but it wasn't a real formal paperwork kind of a thing. But it was more like a few steps into it, and I had to make some very serious decisions based on the position that I was going to hold, and also having to put up with the scrutiny of them digging through my entire life before I became part of the program.
Is it something looking back on that you're fond of, or do you regret it?
Actually, it's a mix of both. I think the mentality in the program is one that is very similar to what the Army would say, is that if we want you to have a wife and kids, we would have issued them to you. and that the mission is tantamount to all things. And no matter, when you get the call, you go, and you're all focused on just that one thing. And that's kind of what the expectation was. So yeah, there's a little bit of mental preparation for that.
Very cool. Very cool. For you, when you got out and you decided that you wanted to go public with what was eating you up alive, basically, quote what you just said a few minutes ago, how does that process work? Do you have to approach your superiors and say, this is what I want to do? I want to talk publicly about this. How does that work for people who may not understand?
Well, there's a couple of different tracks you can go in. You can go anonymously, or you can go in publicly. I chose to go in the anonymous way at first, and then switched into public sort of approach to the whole thing when I went into the whistleblower part of it. It was a long process, also about a year's worth of processing actually to get me to that point. But the UAP Task Force Forum is on a classified network that's for the intel folks, and that's where they found me. They posted some things that we were looking at. We were always analyzing imagery and videos and whatnot. And one day they posted a UFO contact in the Nevada test range, and I knew about that. I actually was there the week after that event happened, and the video's out there for everybody to see for themselves. So there's a lot of different things that happened at that point. And one of them was for me to decide whether I was going to tell the rest of the story, because the stuff that's posted out there on the internet, I knew that happened the week just before I came out with my part of the story, which happened the following Monday, where I actually encountered the pilot of this UFO that came out into the Nellis test range. And that's when the UAP Task Force interviewed me. David Grusch was one of them, and his boss, I believe, at the time, they called me on the phone, and we interviewed, talked about things, and it progressed all the way up to the point where I was getting a call from one of the congressional committee members to come testify after that in October. I got a call from the committee members and asked me to come by end of November, beginning December, to testify in 2022.
As you started this whirlwind of going public, who did you know, or how did you know who to reach out to?
Thankfully, it was mainly David Grusch. He was the one guiding me. He was the one introducing me to different people as we went along the path of whistleblowing. He himself was going to be whistleblowing as well. He was actually suffering some reprisals at the time with his clearance, and I think he'd suffered some threats as well. So he and I both were coming in 2022, December 2022, to do the whistleblowing. So he and I were the first two through that system with Arrow. So that's how we kind of, or not Arrow, but through Congress, and then later Arrow. So that's kind of how we did it. It was in tandem, and it was mainly David Grusch who was orchestrating everything on the meetings that I needed to attend. And finally, I ended up coming back to Washington, D.C., and I met all the committee members. And I've spent about 3.5 hours on one side in the Senate, and then another 3.5 hours on the House side. And both sides got to interview me and hear my story. They took notes on it. I've had some of the committee members write a letter to James Fox about my participation in that I did help with the investigation.
What was your relationship with David Grusch? How did that begin?
Sorry, what was that?
How did your relationship with David Grusch begin?
It was mainly professional at start, but because we kind of went through the whistleblowing process together, we got to be pretty good friends, and we still are. And he's still pressing through life, and so am I. But yeah, we just kind of grew to know each other. We started talking about the issues, whistleblower issues, as well as UAP issues, and some of the things that are main topics that we were interested in. And we were still very active at that time with the UAP Task Force Forum, and we were looking at all kinds of different things where we were standardizing our intel procedures, looking for false negatives and things like this, so that we could catalog the types of things that ended up being a database of images and things that we deemed to be just an image that could have been actually real, but other ones that you have to be careful that they look real but they're not. So that database was a big deal. So we were talking about things like that, but that was mainly all of the analysts on the forum that were discussing those types of things, so that we could compare all these different sorts of artifacts that can end up in a video or an image, and you weren't fooled. In other words, in other words, we were just trying to figure out how to focus the effort so that we could get through all of the different things that kept coming in that we had to analyze and streamline that process.
Your reasoning for coming out was why? Was it? I know it's personal. I know you had a lot of different feelings inside of you, as you said, but I'm looking at a broader scale. Was it for the American public? Was it for the world to kind of know what is really going on behind the scenes?
Yes. When I did that, it was a conscious effort. I didn't originally want to go public. I wanted to stay anonymous, but I did run into James Fox, the film director, and he offered to help me do my deathbed confession, and he videotaped me. And that is something I've given out to people that I trust, so that if something happens to me, somebody has that full interview with James Fox. And that's what ultimately led later on to him including some of the film in his movie, because as I went through all the wickets in 2023, as you know, David Grusch came forward publicly. And that was kind of a discussion that I was having as well with David. I know that David wanted to go public. He was better prepared to go public last March, because he'd already gotten his pre-publication done, which is what I was waiting for. It took a while. That was the last thing I had to do. And so he went public. It was either him or I, because we both felt like we both had to go public and tell the people. But I'm glad he went first. He did a great job. And now this year, I've done the same. And at first, like I said, I wanted to be anonymous. Accidentally, though, during the interviewing process, I think my name got shown on a clapperboard that the directors use when they're doing filming.
Yeah.
And that kind of led me to think about going public earlier than I originally planned. However, I couldn't go public until after that pre-publication was approved, which happened in March. And as everybody knows, March 20th is when I came out on X and started speaking publicly and had that 5-hour interview. And that kind of went a bit viral. And that's how things kind of came out public. It was a slow process of wanting to be anonymous and then gradually warming up to the idea. And that's how it happened.
You've been pretty open about your experiences, pretty much the only whistleblower that has been extremely candid about this. Why do you think other whistleblowers, such as your friend David Grusch, have remained in the background and, very limited in who they interview with or what they say?
Well, I'd say there's some people that are more public than others. I'm seeing more and more of some of the other figureheads like Lou Elizondo reaching out on X to his followers and stuff like that. And it's kind of a personal desire of each whistleblower on how much they want to do publicly and how much they want to remain anonymous. David is very much a private person, and he suffered reprisals from the program people, or at least other people that wished him harm. So he's had good reason to stay silent. I mean, he's got a beautiful family that he's protecting, and I think that's a personal decision that made him do that. Me, I also have a family. However, I'm separated from my wife All my kids are grown. So I think I was a little bit more open to public disclosure. I believe that I want to tell the world, not just America, but I would like to make, that plea to American people first, because I know that's where the program resides as well. And I just feel like it's one of those things that we each personally have to deal with how much exposure we want. And once I had decided to go public, I think I wholeheartedly embraced that. And that's why I've been doing what I've been doing, because I've seen nothing but positive impact by getting the people involved, because I feel like that's the one thing that we really haven't tried yet. Everybody else was just, kind of knocking on the door at Capitol Hill, whistleblowing and talking to Congress members. I wanted to see what would happen if we also included the people in that. And I think it's turned out pretty well and pretty positively this past year. And I really love all the support that I've gotten from all my followers, and all the great people around the world have been reaching out to me ever since. So it's been a very positive experience.
Jason Sands is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Jason, we are going to take a break here in about 3 minutes' time, but you have also seen the good, bad, and ugly of the UFO side of things. There are people who have been critics, there are people who have been skeptics, and I want to get deeper into that with you. But first, before we get into that, which we will after the break, do you have to have a really tough skin to be doing what you're doing? Because I watch online, I've talked to you privately, I know you're a pretty good human being as a person. We've had candid conversations. I think that's easy to say. I'm not going to get into our private conversations, but we've had candid conversations. On a public scale, though, do you have to have a thick skin? Do you have to be a little scaly?
Yeah, you do. You have to have a thick skin. You have to learn how to deal with it. Otherwise, it can turn you sour quite quickly. And again, that's where I'm very glad that I reached out to the people first. I think a lot of times that comes last, especially if somebody's going to be a whistleblower. They know about everybody in Congress, and then they never really reach out to public people. But I did, and that, like I said, it was a benefit actually to me to do that, to be received. But yeah, the thickness of your skin really matters. You got to be able to, have patience for that. Realize not everybody wants to believe. And sometimes people believe part of your story and not other parts. And you got to be willing to put up with that. I mean, you got to be willing to let other people be themselves. And you do have to set your mind up properly for that, because if you get upset easily, maybe that going public isn't for you. Thankfully, I've been a patient man. I've got a pretty good demeanor about me, is what I've been told by others. And that patience is something that really sees me through some of the times when I need to be more thick-skinned to people that are kind of being rude. And that's where I draw the line, actually. It's just, the thick skin is for those people that not only do they not want to believe you, but they refuse to behave properly either. And they can get quite nasty. So you're right. Thick skin's part of the game.
Well, that is something that I think you have shown, because you've had a lot of people come at you. You've had a lot of people who don't know you, who just hear your story, and because they don't believe in it, automatically think it is BS. They often ask, where's the proof? Where's the evidence? This is a big trust me, bro situation. And with 30 seconds to go, I think you realize that. I think you realize that doing what you're doing, you're not going to be able to provide. It has to be on a word of mouth.
Yes, it does. And I've done everything I can with my military records and posting those and showing them to the talk show hosts that I've interviewed with. And I've also posted some online. But anyway, all of that proves that, yes, I was at Nellis during the years I claimed. Yes, I've been part of a special access program that's also in the documents. So I can verify everything except the program name, which is classified, and I can't ever tell anybody about that.
Hold on, Jason. We're going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Jason Sands, whistleblower, is with us. When we return, we're going to get into why there's not enough evidence regarding these subjects. We'll be right back. All right, buddy. We are clear. Remember, our YouTube and podcast audience can hear us.
Okay.
We got about 5 minutes here.
All right.
Carrie Doyle, how are you? I will try and get some questions in for Jason in hour number 2. So if you want your questions, make sure you put them in capital letters, people. Thank you. So what are you preparing for this year? What's the excitement?
Well, I'm getting ready to start doing some things that are near and dear to my heart. I've been doing this for a year now, so I've met a lot of different groups. One of them in particular is a targeted individuals group that are suffering from either abductions and or governmental harassment. And those are the things that I really am focused on right now, is helping others. The other thing I'm doing is trying to stand up the First Hand Fund, where we can, people can donate money to the First Hand Fund, and that way I can help other whistleblowers who want to come forward, if that's what they're choosing to do, so that they have a bridge into becoming a whistleblower, just like I am and several of the other people that we know out there in public. And I'm hoping that does give some hope to whistleblowers. So really, I'm looking forward to helping folks really to come forward. And I'm glad that I've got a lot of people that are also interested in doing the same thing. So I would encourage any of your listeners to go ahead and look at the First Hand Fund if they want to donate to that. I promise I'll do what I can to help other whistleblowers to be protected and come forward, as well as to take a look at some of these targeted individual stories that are going to be coming out. And they need your support as well, because some of them are homeless from the things that they've suffered, and they're really hurting right now. So there are people that are affected by this topic, and that's really what I'm looking forward to this year, is expanding into a place where I can help.
Are there a lot of whistleblowers out there, Jay?
Sadly, yes. I think there's many people that never come forward because of fear, that they fear they're going to lose their job or suffer some kind of physical harm, or things like this. And I'm a living testament, as well as David Grusch is, and Lou Elizondo, and several others, that you can do this, and you can get through it and be protected. Congress is serious about the whistleblower protections, and there are many people out there that do support us. And those are the kind of things I would tell, if you're other whistleblowers that might be stuck in their mind thinking that there's no way out. But I would encourage them that, yes, there is a way out, and I'm willing to help you do that, as well as the Soul Foundation. You can contact any of them. You can talk to Danny Sheehan. You can talk to David Grusch, me. Any one of us has that ability to know how to get you through the process.
I think it's great. I think it's great.
I do too. We do need to stick together. But if you are a whistleblower, we don't even know each other a lot of times. I know I've helped other whistleblowers come forward, and they've gotten through it successfully, and they've remained anonymous. So those are all good, positive things that I've at least helped out a few people already. So yeah, you're right. It's a decision, and it's something that I encourage people to do and think carefully, about your NDA. And I would also say, as I did before, that if you've seen fraud, waste, and abuse, that actually trumps out all of the other NDAA agreement stuff that you've signed, because aside from your code of silence in a special access program, you also you have the responsibility to report that fraud, waste, and abuse. So that's what I came forward, or why I came forward, and that's what I would encourage other whistleblowers, that if you do see impropriety or something you find questionable, and those sorts of things do happen from time to time, and just to come forward and speak your part, because the Congress needs to know about it, and especially this new administration. I can see a lot of transparency coming our way and declassification of things.
Right.
So they're going to have to come to grips with that.
Hold right there, Jason. We're going to come back. Thank you, Chill Farm, Jeff, and Marty, for the super chats.
Sorry.
Here we go, the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We have whistleblower Jason Sands on with us. We'll get to him momentarily. But first, we want to remind all of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Jason Sands is here, whistleblower on the UFO/UAP subject. Is it happening? Is it really going on within the United States government? Well, we're going to find out here momentarily. Jason, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Yep, thank you for having me.
Jason, one of the highest critics or critical pieces of knowledge that the skeptics and people who want to believe but just want more would say, whether it's you, David Grusch, Gary Anderson, Lou Elizondo, now Jason Barber, is that there is no proof or evidence that comes out. That the UFO world is tired of the trust me bro type of attitude, that you got to trust me on this. I'm just telling you my story. This is what I experienced. Prior to 2017, you would have been a hero in this field prior to the New York Times article. And many consider you guys heroes now and patriots, but it comes with a lot more difficulty now because of the online stigma of whistleblowers. So where is the proof? Where is the evidence regarding this?
Well, it comes from collaboration of other people and witnesses, which I do have two other witnesses that were there to witness that UFO on the Nellis test range. So that's important. That's something also that for whistleblowing, I wish that everybody was comfortable coming out public, but not everybody is. So I know that those two individuals that know me and also have seen the UFO up there when I did during those weeks of the Nellis test range incident, that they've had to think long and hard about whether they want to go public with this. So behind the scenes, there is some of that collaboration, but the public doesn't always get to know about it. So that's part of the stigma, is that you're not seeing a lot of collaboration because a lot of people are scared to actually do much more than just kind of have a phone call with some friends of mine and say, yes, I know Jason, I can verify who he is. The other part of the stigma is that, we're talking about UFO incidents and alien contact and things like this. You can't just reproduce that for a talk show, and you can't even reproduce that for a film unless you are acting with props, So there's no evidence there either, because I wish that everybody could have been there to see the things that I've seen, but that just doesn't happen. So that's another reason why the stigma is there, because, some people are just that critical, is that they have to touch it themselves. They have to see it themselves. There's really no level of talking to them. There's no level of convincing them. They just are not going to believe until they themselves have had that contact or seen that UFO. So all those things contribute to the stigma. And on top of that, the ugliness that people get into, sometimes that's something that even big talking heads in the UAP community stay away from and really don't appreciate. And that's one of the reasons they're not more public, is because of some of the ugliness that people get into with the topic and wanting their evidence. And it's like, I just can't carry a UFO on my back out of dreamland and just present that to the world. I wish I could, but I can't. And the same with the other whistleblowers. So it's like, where's the realistic amount of evidence that you guys really want? To me, I think the best amount of evidence that all of us can produce as whistleblowers is the fact that there's over 40 of us that have come forward. We do tend to have some of the similar concerns about the program and some of the misappropriations that we've seen, or fraud, waste, and abuse, and questionable activities, and we don't even know each other. So you're talking about a cadre of people that aren't just people off the street. They've held clearances for many, many years, such as myself. I've had my clearance for over 30 years now. And that is something that everybody should take to heart first before you go slamming people around in different spaces and podcasts, because we've already done quite a bit. We've already, actually, for me, if I counted it all, let me see here. I've had to be verified by Congress. Then I had to be verified by Arrow. Then I had to be verified by the ICIG. Then I had to go through the pre-publication DOPSR process. And those are all the, no kidding, investigative, authoritative, and investigative sources in our country here in America. And I've been through all of that, and so have the other whistleblowers. And then to have the public wanting to do their own investigation on top of that without the same resources, I find that a bit over the top sometimes, especially if you're talking to somebody who's pretty much a couch potato and they just have an opinion. It seems they feel like they're more important than any investigation I've ever been through, that their opinion matters much more than Congress and Arrow and all the rest of them doing their investigation, verifying who I am, and then they want to say, well, I don't verify you, and I'm a couch potato. So there, that's kind of another thing that people have to swallow, and that's a bitter pill, I think, for a lot of whistleblowers.
I don't mean this question insultingly. So being a Canadian, I always start off with an apology first, Jason. But why should people believe your story?
Well, I'm a man who has not done anything wrong to anyone. I have given up a heck of a lot. I don't even have a job right now because of coming forward and all these other things. I've taken a lot of risk to go ahead and do this. And it's, for me, important that it's kind of like a bucket list thing, or I believe that this is an issue that's so important to mankind that I feel somebody has to blaze the trail. And I think that David Grusch and the rest of us have been trying really hard to get that done, and so is the government. And I think this is an issue that's bigger than me. It's bigger than literally every other question. Are we alone, or are we not alone? I think that is a huge thing for people to understand. And for me, I've already got my answer. I have already seen what I've seen, so you don't have to convince me. I know it's real. But I think the rest of the world needs to hear that, is that this is a real thing. We're not alone. Now let's start thinking about why they don't want open contact. And I think that the reason they would say, if if I was an NHI for a moment, I would tell you that that's really what I would like to see, is some more openness. But there's things that you guys as human beings have to do, to make me feel a little bit safer. I think most of us would agree that we're kind of we tend to weaponize things that we find in the desert. And we obviously have been doing that in this program for many years now. So I think that the NHI are a bit leery of us. We tend to weaponize everything. And they do have some concerns also, apparently, from where they show up from time to time around our nuclear carriers and nuclear power plant sites all around the world. And all these are big concerns. So it seems like the NHI are very concerned about it as well. Those are the real reasons why I came forward. But I've got nothing to gain, really, from coming forward. So you've got to ask yourself why. Why would I do that after having a successful career for as long as I did? And that's one of the things that I could say flies in the face of anybody who accuses me of trying to lie about this. I mean, I've got no reason to do that. I don't have a history of lying about these things. I don't go about, seeking to aggrandize myself. All these things would definitely be something that I would be involved with if I was lying, but I'm not. And if anybody knows me like you do, that, it's just not in me to do any of those things. I've tried to be a straight shooter from the start. So it's a matter of getting to know me and the other whistleblowers as well. I know that I've been very good about trying to get with the public and tell them and show them who I am and what makes me tick. And if you can't accept that, then I don't know what else to do. So that's the other part of it. I just can't produce everything that everybody wants me to produce on this topic. I've given you everything I can, and that's about all I can do. And if that's not good enough, I guess, then I don't know what to do. I mean, it's up to people to make their own choice.
You feel like you're personally stressed about that? Because I can understand the UFO community. Okay, they've been waiting 70 plus years since Roswell to have answers, and we are the closest we have ever been to those answers. I remember prior to 2017, I remember Stephen Bassett on this show saying, if we could just get one guy, one person from the inside to come out and say this is true, this would open the door wide open. And now we got 40 plus. Many haven't been named or gone public yet. And we're probably in worse shape than where we were before due to the advancements of social media, the advancements of the highly skeptical, the people who are tired of the wool being pulled over their eyes. There are a multitude of excuses for that. You almost seem apologetic that you don't have that concrete proof or evidence to bring forward.
Yeah, you're right. Every whistleblower wishes they could do that. If I could have taken a piece of one of the UFOs with me, I would have. I really feel like, this is very important. And yeah, I do feel a bit forlorn about the fact that I can't show you everything that I've seen. And that does kind of eat at you after a while, because that you're 100% convinced. I'm 100% convinced that this was something extraterrestrial that I've encountered. But I honestly know also that it's an experience that, few have had. And we're still, the people that have seen these things, experienced these things, they want to be able to tell people this is real. I honestly saw this, and I can't explain it. And, you want to tell the world because it's important. Once you've experienced these things and you're 100% convinced that this is something out of this world, then yeah, you want to tell people. You want them to see it. You want them to feel it. And yeah, so it does make me a bit forlorn about it, that I can't convince everybody. So I just wish that proof was there. And that's where we're hopefully going to get some more transparency, like I said, out of this administration. And maybe America can lead the way into an era where we can say, yes, we're not alone. No, we're not going to tell you all the secrets we know about how to use this technology to weaponize or defend our nation. But at least we can tell you we're not alone, because there's a lot other things other than the military aspects of the phenomenon that do matter to mankind. I mean, what about the spiritual growth of our nation and our peoples and the people of the world? And all these sorts of things that might come of a relationship with some of these beings. And it appears that in ancient texts, even, that these beings have been here and concerned about us for many, many years, if not millennia. So all those things add up in my head as to, yeah, that's the reason why I feel a bit sad that I can't show you everything that I know. Because to me, I can move on from the what if question. I actually know what it is. Now I can move on with my mind and think about all the other things that come along with that thought process. And I can understand that these vehicles are manufactured somewhere. That means that they came out of a manufacturing plant somewhere, from an unknown civilization. That there are peoples that look like us but have different, ears and eyes and different organs inside their body. All these things are things that come along with that, and because now I don't have to worry about the fact that they exist. I've already answered that question. Now I can be more acceptable or accepting of all the other parts that come along with, is there other people? Yes, there is. That means that I can now accept the fact that there's probably other worlds, other planets that we just haven't discovered yet. And that's something I wish everybody could really, I think it would open up a whole era of new wonder for mankind, honestly. What is really out there? I mean, if there is other life out there and they knew it like I did, I think that we'd have a huge push to get to Mars, a huge push to get out of the solar system and figure out what we could do to get out there and see this whole new aspect of life. And that sounds more exciting to me because of what I know.
Jason Sands is our guest tonight. He's a UFO whistleblower, first time on the show. Jason, I want our audience to hear, if they haven't already, some of the criticism you get online regarding this subject. And I think some of it is a little disturbing, but I'm going to take the time to read it. And I'm not saying this to make you feel bad, but I just want our audience to know some of the things that are being said online about you from people you've never met before, people who are armchair quarterbacks on this thing or armchair researchers.
Yeah.
And I took this from Reddit. And this one person says, Jason Sands is a person who needs some professional mental health assistance. His story is a riff on Corey Good's self-admitted fake story. Another person says, it's clear Jason Sands has been badly traumatized by something, but his kill the alien story, I don't know. Another person comes out and says, Jason is in a weird spot because he's backed by his UAP task force dude, but someone like Danny Sheehan, who doesn't support the Galactic Federation, or who does support Galactic Federation, claims they don't want to represent him. Jason came off as kind of stupid in a podcast, to be honest. He seems more like a grunt type than an intelligence operative. I mean, these are personal shots at you from people who are judging you on a 2-hour show.
Mm-hmm.
That's their right. That's their freedom of speech. But you're still a human being. You're still someone with feelings, somebody who is trying, in your opinion, to do the right thing. When you hear comments like that from people that you've never met before, giving you these cheap shots, what do you go through?
Well, yeah, it does infuriate me sometimes, but like I said, I'm a patient man. I tend to be the kind of person that gives everybody a break and understands that not everybody can believe. But ultimately, some of these people that make these comments about my mental health, they're not qualified mental health people. So that's easy to disregard what they say, because I could say that about somebody that I don't want to believe and just say, oh, you got mental problems, but that person's perfectly healthy mental wise. But it's just a nasty way of dealing with somebody when, you hear something, you ask me a question. I've usually tried my best to answer as best I can, but go ahead and don't believe me if you don't want to believe that there's a nasty side to this whole thing. And who's this Corey Good? Who's that? You mentioned him.
He's somebody who was working for Gaia, claiming to be 20 and back. And
the 20 and back thing. Yeah, because
it wasn't true.
Because I'm not very well versed on 20 and back. I just thought it was a mercenary type part of the program, which I did have to participate in, because even Jake Barber, it's mentioned that, retrievals are messy and they're dangerous. I mean, it's like going out after a gold mine and you've got 3 other companies that are going to maybe show up and start shooting at each other to try to recover the gold. So yeah, there is a real reason to have these sorts of very nasty gunfights. People actually, if we're retrieving, let's say, occupants of a given UFO, just as Jake Baker has been stating, that there are sometimes live aliens involved, and not all of them are friendly. Some of them are in survival mode, and they will kill you if you don't kill them. Those are all things that are realities in that retrieval case. So that's what I'm alluding to when it comes to that. So these are things that are just out of the scope of what other people don't understand, but we're starting to hear about from both me and Jake Barber and maybe some other whistleblowers that have been part of it. Herrera's another one. You've got all of these whistleblowers that have come forward saying that, yeah, there is a mercenary style of thing going on with these retrievals. So if people can't understand that exists and they don't want to believe me, well, yeah, that's their purview. I don't care. But to go out on a limb and say that I'm further than that, I'm a mental person, I'm already seeing psychiatrists for my PTSD, and they don't think I'm crazy. So I could tell you that's a professional opinion about my mental health, and that this couch potato, whoever said that, they deserve to be pretty much put in their box, because they don't really have that skill set. It's just them being nasty.
What would happen if you broke your NDA and came out and said what you know?
If I said all of the classified stuff that I haven't gotten approval for, then yeah, I would have to, face the music and say hello to all the people that want to ask me, well, why did I let this classified bit of information go? And but that's not the case. I've already done all my legal wickets, so I'm safe. But yeah, if I did step out on a limb and start to talk about classified things, yeah, I could be held accountable for that. Like weapon systems, yeah, I know a lot about weapon systems, but I'm not going to say anything because I know what those are classified. So I would not ever do that. I wouldn't endanger our national security like that.
But for those of us who don't know the results of breaking a non-disclosure agreement when you're working in defense or for the military or whatever other departments you worked for, what's the punishment?
You can be arrested, or they could just take administrative reprisals against you. But all of those require a notification to me to say that we, the DOD, or whoever might have a complaint against me, are now filing a formal complaint against Jason Sands or or some other whistleblower. That's the way it would normally go. I've never received any such warnings from the government at all. The only way that I think that they've been messing with me is just they won't pass on my clearance. That's the only thing. It's still just sitting there in a database waiting for what they say is just somebody to reactivate it. So it's just a matter of, some of these corporate people that might want me for a job to reactivate it, and then they come to find out that yes, they've tried a number of times, but somebody in DOD is preventing that from happening. So these are the kind of things that can happen to you, all the way up to, depending on the severity of classified exposure, you can actually go to jail if it's really of grave concern to the United States. That, say I start talking about technologies that the Russians and Chinese want, and we actually start to be threatened by China and Russia because of it. Yeah, and it could be directly related to me for saying something I said. Yeah, you could get in trouble for that kind of a thing, but that's not what I've been doing. It's been mainly just to tell people we're not alone. And I think that's perfectly common ground for a lot of folks that are whistleblowers.
Minute to go here. Do you think then that there is some scariness to it, like the real threats? We always hear of these death threats, or we always hear of threats at Guantanamo Bay or other type of areas.
Yes, and that's another reason why going public is a good way. It's a safety net. But yes, that's another danger. There have been some people that have been scared that way, and can fear for their lives. So yeah, there's a danger of that. I can tell you that when I was in the program, I didn't hear much about any of that. I knew they had security problems, but I've never been privy to somebody, talking about, killing an American citizen because they were going to expose the program. I think they've got a lot of other options before they go.
Jason, hold on right there because we're coming back for Jason Sands. His alien encounter. Coming up next, this is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right, Jason, we got about 6 minutes here before we got to come back. I'm going to put you back in the green room, and I'll just step away for a minute, and I'll be right back, okay?
Okie doke. Sounds good.
All right. We'll be right back, everybody. am back. Queen Peach Keen, how you doing? Let's bring Jason back in. Thanks again for doing this, Jay.
Yeah, no problem.
Hope you're having fun.
Been a long time coming.
Way too long. Boy, I'm good with that. At least you're here.
Yep.
All right. I think I'm caught up all in the chat room here. Big thank you tonight so far to Chill Farm, Jeff, and Marty for the super chats. Greatly appreciate the love and support. So cool. And what I gotta do. Don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag, so make sure you check it on out and see where it ends up. Especially if you wear it. It's really cool. All right, here we go, everyone. Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate you tuning us in as we talk with whistleblower Jason Sands here momentarily. First, I want to remind all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Sage Ship. Sage Ship is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as a clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. All right, let's get right to it. Jason Sands, whistleblower, is our guest tonight. And the story that has everybody wondering what is going on is an incident that he had at Area 51. Jason, I'm going to let you tell the story from the beginning.
So if you can imagine going up to a little town called Beatty, it's not much of, it's just a main road and a right turn and you're out of town. But we were headed up range to do the daily training for the air crews, and we were in a convoy of about 3 vehicles. And like I said before, that this convoy was the week after the UFO had come onto the range. And again, for all the listeners, that is available to you online. All you have to do is punch in on Google or Bing or whatever you use and put in UFO incident, or excuse me, Nellis Test Range UFO incident of 1994, and it should pop up with a report as well as the videos of the UFO that I saw the following week, along with the pilot. So we're headed up this 1 week after this event has occurred. We're convoying up, and the ranking individual says we're going to stop out off and talk to the video operators who wanted us to see a video of this UFO. They had logged our names when we got onto the range, and we saw the video. He showed it to everybody that was convoyed up that day, and it kind of surprised a lot of us that, yeah, it was very strange. You're talking to a bunch of people that are used to seeing all types of aircraft and flying things from all over the world, and none of us could make heads or tails of what this craft was. But we put our names on the list, and then off we went. So as we're traveling from that video operator's cantonment area or fenced-in area, about a mile down the road, that's where I have my encounter, or the convoy encounters this individual that's kind of hailing us on the road and running kind of funny towards us. Looks like he's going to fall over any time. And as we're getting closer, I could see that he had very pale skin, had this bluish undertone, kind of like somebody who's suffering from hypothermia. And as I'm looking, I'm also seeing this craft that we had just seen a video of about 50 yards on the north-hand shoulder of the dirt road we were on, sitting there on the desert floor. So then this individual is very close to the vehicle by this time. I'm thinking I've got to render aid because I think he's, very cold and he might be suffering from hypothermia. The guy in the passenger's front seat says, as we get close, he's got no ears. And I kind of thought that was strange and a bit rude because I thought that, this was an individual who was in trouble, possibly going to die on us if we didn't render aid. So I was more concerned about getting out of the vehicle and taking off my jacket to try to put it on this individual. So after I get out of the car and I step onto the roadway, I shut the door, I look up, and sure enough, he's got no ears. And he also, I notice he's got his eyes are two times bigger than my own or any other eyes I've ever seen. And the corners of the eyes are actually more closer to where our temples are if we were to equate that to us humans. So that's when I get really scared. I wonder, what the heck did I get myself into? Who is this person? What is this person? Is this person even from this planet? The only thing that grounded me was the fact that he began speaking to me in a language I didn't know, but telepathically I understood everything he was saying. He also wore a uniform similar to mine. However, his did not have any insignia that I recall. And his uniform was absolutely clean and pristine, which was very unusual because when you go up range, it's very dirty. You take your crappiest uniforms with you, that kind of thing. So here I am standing here looking at this being from another world, about 2 to 3 feet away, and he's talking to me telepathically, and he's telling me that his craft is damaged and he needs some material to repair it, and he calls this material tantalum, or something similar to that. I didn't know what that material was, so me being part of the program just earlier that year, I pointed to the mountain range in the direction of Dreamland and said that, well, those people probably have some exotic materials, might be able to help you. Well, turns out that he didn't like that idea. He considered them, in his own words, barbarians and murderers, and that he would never ask them to help him and assist him to repair his craft. So I was like, well, gosh, I don't know what else to do. I take college courses down in Las Vegas was the only other thing I could suggest to him. And that I have a professor that was a geophysics guy, and maybe he knew a metallurgist that could help him out. So there was no goodbyes at that point. He just, the individual turned and went back to his craft, flew over the roadway, and I noticed that the people in my vehicle were kind of snapping out of what looked like a trance of some kind. So I'm not sure if they even remembered the event. And I'm getting back in the vehicle, and then it was getting kind of late. We had to get to Black Mountain where we had to set up our equipment for the air crews that were going to start training very soon. So we really didn't have much time to think about or talk about things because we had to get up to the Black Mountain to start things up. But we did talk a little bit afterwards, but nobody seemed to be willing or were unable to, talk about this event. I think some of them might have been scared, or maybe they just didn't remember for that day that is something that happened. But anyway, that's what happened to me on the way up in our convoy. As I said, there were 2 other individuals the previous week that know me and worked with me at the time at Nellis, and they also verified that the UFO was actually there on the test range, and it looked exactly like the same vehicle that I saw on the desert floor that day. So this was all in October, I think, time frame, dead of winter, very cold day, bitter cold day. And that was another reason why I thought this individual was dying of hypothermia. But it turns out he was perfectly healthy. That's just his skin tone. So very albino-like skin with this bluish undertone, and that's pretty much what happened that day. So we ran into the pilot of the vehicle, and that was quite surprising, especially from the progression from the week before. Now we're actually encountering the pilot. That was quite surprising for me.
When you met this being, how long did it take for you to realize that it wasn't human?
It was pretty instantaneous. I mean, he was a little bit shorter than me, about 5'7", maybe 5'6". So he's about half a foot shorter than me. It was just the eyes, really. I think that's what really got me. Was aside from the fact that, because I kind of looked the ears over, they looked normal. It would be like as if your skin kind of conformed your earlobe to your head or your skull, so that they weren't sticking out like ours do. But the eyes really, really got me. That's what really made me think this is not a human, because the eyes were way too big. I mean, to the point where it was literally, they were so large, the eyes were so large that it fell out of the realm of normal completely. And that's what really set me off. And that's when my heart just kind of, I was like, holy crap, what is this standing in front of me? Kind of a feeling.
Did you try to direct it anywhere to get help, knowing that you guys couldn't help?
Yeah, I did direct him up to Dreamland, and I did tell him that I had knew a professor at the college that might be able to get him in touch with a metallurgist. And I guess he just didn't want to go to Dreamland. He didn't like it, and the college professor idea, he seemed to be kind of accepting of that. So I don't know what happened, what he did next. But perhaps that was something he was thinking about, is that there might be other people that are out there that might be able to help him.
How long was this interaction?
It wasn't very long. It was probably within 5 minutes or so. There wasn't a lot of talking and everything. It was more like a traffic stop and a quick conversing about his craft. So I'd say it was probably under 5 minutes, definitely not over 10. So it was a very quick conversation.
What did you guys do after? Was it just okay, we're going to get going now, goodbye?
Well, yeah, like I said, they came at least the people that I knew were in the car with me. They definitely looked like they were in some sort of a trance near the end of the conversation that I was having with this individual. And they seemed to come to. They didn't want to talk about anything. They were mainly concerned about getting up to the schoolhouse, that we'd already wasted too much time and we needed to get up there and set up the equipment. So, yeah, we were kind of in a rush at that point, not much time to talk about things. And I think that's kind of the overall mental thought with the crew, was that we needed to get to the schoolhouse and start setting up.
After you have this encounter, is that something you have to report in on?
Only if I felt like there was a threat or something like that. This was so strange. I didn't know how to treat it. I didn't know what to do with the information, to tell you the truth. I knew that the video operators were very confused about what they had seen and recorded on their own cameras and everything else. I also then, when I went back home thinking about the whole event, thinking what possibly could I do, and I just didn't see any good way of being able to bring it up without suffering some kind of reprisals, because even the week before, people were arguing back and forth about what the craft was, and some of them were getting into arguments, and I just thought it would just inflame things to bring it up again. So I just didn't talk about it, and ended up that the whole incident from the previous week, where the film of the UFO came out, it actually leaked out into the press later on, so it actually went public, and I thought that was good enough. That was the UFO incident there, and nothing else needed to be said, because I knew that people would probably find the rest of the story kind of really hard to take, because actually encountering the pilot was even more fantastical than the fact that we had a UFO on the range. So there's all these different things that flew around in my head at the time. I was a young man, probably not as wise as I'd like to have been, but I just shut up, as I normally do, and got on with life without, trying to stir the pot, so to speak.
Were there any after effects to you from this encounter with this being?
Well, yeah, I'd say that the telepathic component of the communication really has stuck with me ever since. The level of control that this person had when I was sharing mind space with them telepathically was very calm, very precise. My I felt very embarrassed about my own thoughts because they were all over the place. There were times when the fear in my gut would well up, and I would feel like I was a bit emotionally out of control. But he was very polite about it. I could feel him kind of giving me room to calm down, giving me room to speak. So he was being respectful of my situation. And yeah, that kind of sticks with me, is that the civility of his thought process, how ordered his thoughts were, the peacefulness that pervaded my mind when we were talking, that I could feel his peacefulness inside of me. And on top of that, there was such a similarity of emotion, um, of that peacefulness. It's the kind of peacefulness that you and I know. Um, and there was so much emotional similarity that I was like, they're just, it made me think these peoples that are from another planet are just like us. They feel emotion. They do a lot of things the same as us. They have the same loves, desires, uh, and all this stuff was in that context of who he was as opposed to who I was during that telepathic communication. So yeah, there was a lot more in that, and I've always striven to try to be as civilized in thought and controlled in thought as he was, because once I experienced that, I think anybody else who experiences that would say that, yeah, it does affect you when that happens. It's quite how to say, it's beneficial, I guess. It's not it's not something normal for us as humans, but to feel that level of civility and peacefulness and respect, it was definitely something I'd never felt before from an individual, and I've always aspired to be that ever since.
Have you ever had communication with that being since?
I would like to think that yes, when I reach out mentally, that they do listen, and they do respond. And I think we're starting to see some more whistleblower evidence of that, or at least testimony to that effect from Jake Barber, that he says that there was an 8-sided UFO that he retrieved once, and he said he was actually crying while he was transporting this. So this device, our craft, and so that's exactly the way I feel about it. Is that there's parts of it that makes you want to cry because it's such a beautiful experience. And yeah, I think that is a component to this type of encounter that, at least for my part of it, and obviously Jake Barber's as well, that we would say that some of this is very spiritual, you know. And then other people, though, they claim it's absolutely a horror show. So I don't know what to think about that, because my experience has not been a horror show. It's been more or less, very benign, very benevolent, and very kind. So I don't know what to think about all of the experiences in total. All I know is the experiences I've had were very, very good and civilized.
You also claim to have some sort of adventures out in space. Were these just screen memories, or how do you like to get into that story?
Well, it's just I did try to describe some of this earlier, I think in December, but I got such a lot of, there's about 3 or 4 people in that space that were just absolutely horrible to me. It didn't help my PTSD. I was caught off guard with the question about it as well. But I was going to say the rest of it, but I'm not going to anymore. I think it's just too much for the public. I don't want to upset people. Um, maybe later on down the line, when we've gotten more disclosure, perhaps then we could talk about things that are more seriously down the rabbit hole about what's actually going on in the program, and then the contact between humans and non-human intelligence. And we can talk a little bit more readily about that. But right now, I think the public's just not ready to hear those kinds of things.
Why do you think the public's not ready?
They're having trouble just believing these shiny objects are manufactured by another civilization. I mean, and I don't mean to belittle it at all, but a lot of people, they see the shiny object or the orb in the sky, the light in the sky, and that's about as far as they go with their thought process. They don't sit there and look at that and go, gosh, if that comes from another planet, what does that really signify? And these craft are coming from places that have an entire civilization with their own government, their own way of life, their own cultures, and everything else. So there's people just don't jump right into that second part of seeing something in the sky, not knowing what that was, but they don't go the next step logically and go, okay, well, gosh, I think it might have been from another world, but what does that actually mean? It means all those things like, if one of our rockets were captured by another intelligence on another planet, that's kind of what it means, is that we exist here on our planet Earth, and that we have all this way of life about us, and that, we have an entire story behind it. And that's what I think is missing a lot in some of these encounters, is that they want to just talk about the shiny object in the sky and nothing more. Forget about the rest, kind of a thing. And very rarely do we get to the point where we can, talk about that intelligently sometimes. There are some groups that I am part of that can have those kind of discussions, but those are very rare.
But isn't that the fault of new ufology? Because when the TTSA and Lou Elizondo and the New York Times article came out, I remember having backdoor conversations with people involved around Lou who were saying, this is why we're switching UFO to UAP. The public isn't going to buy Little Green Men. They aren't going to buy Whitley Strieber's story. They're not going to buy alien encounters. We have to keep this as nuts and bolts as possible. And that's what the environment that was created over that, Jason.
Yeah, and that is a magnetic pull that I think I also felt. There were people telling me that, I have to do disclosure this way, not my own way, but, their way. So good or bad, I understand that, there's a lot of processes within the government and the agency workspaces that needs to be done. However, when it comes to disclosure, it slows things down. So again, here we have a little bit of a magnetic pull of, people that are trying to get to the bottom of it, but it takes so long. And then you've got the impatience of the public wanting answers now. So all those things don't play well together. And those are the kind of things I think that are problematic. I think when it comes to the overall, what are we doing next? What's coming up next? When can we talk about this? When can't we talk about this? Sometimes it can be too constrictive. And I think that's something we have to think about as whistleblowers and as UAP talking heads. We all have to get together somehow and try to all contribute, because it's going to take all of us. I can't do this alone. I know I certainly can't. So it's going to take all of us. But those are the kind of things that, yes, there's a gravity of, who's got the best process to get this done. Well, I think all of us have a good process. And it's not just any one person's idea. We need to get together. Yes, definitely that. But everybody's got a different way to do it. I mean, I'm a little bit more public than other whistleblowers are. Now you've got Jake Barber, who's also coming out publicly. You've got all the other ones that came during David Grusch's testimony. Fravor and Graves came along with him. And we've all done it a little bit differently,
I'm going to get you to hold on right there. When we return, we'll get to some audience questions for Jason Sands.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio.
with your host, Dave Scott. I got a couple more questions to ask you before we get going.
Okay.
Audience questions, and then I'm going to turn it over. I want to try and get in as many audience questions as we can.
Okay.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't go too long, I'm good with it.
Yeah. We got another half hour. That's it.
All right. That's good.
Yeah. Unless you want to do another 5 like your original coming out party.
No, I got so hungry that one time, man. I don't think I could do that again. That's quite a day.
Yeah, but you know what? You were on a rush. You were on a roll, and you know what? You did what you felt you needed to do, my man.
Yeah, I just thought they'd want to talk to me for like 10 minutes, and then I'd be gone. But it ended up being 5 whole hours, and honestly, it went by very quickly. The only thing that really stopped me was I got hungry, and tired. So yeah, and then I realized, wow, it's been 5-6 hours, and I was like, good grief, I need to go get some food first of all, and then I'm probably going to go to bed. So that's exactly what I did.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't touch base on all the different things that you mentioned before about some of the things people are saying about me, about the 20 and back commentary. That's something that keeps popping up. And I don't know how many times I've explained myself that, look, I thought 20 and back was one thing, but to me it meant mercenary work. And yes, I did do mercenary work, but we didn't call it 20 and back. I was very obvious about that in my 5-hour first talk publicly, but still people pop up there and talk. Oh, you said 21 and back. Yeah, earlier in the conversation, but later on, I said we didn't call it nothing like that. But it was similarly a mercenary thing. So that's kind of one of the things that I'd say. There's other things I think people keep bringing up, like Eric Davis said certain things and Doty said certain things. Other people are like, well, you're embarrassing all us veterans. And I'm like, well, I never designated you as the spokesperson for all veterans. I've got a lot of people that love me for what I'm doing. You just happen to be one of the ones that don't like it. So again, go back home, stop being rude. You don't have to believe me. I never asked you to believe me. Just keep your opinion and stop being rude. So there's all these things that have happened time and time again. And each time I talk about it, it's like a broken record, honestly. I've answered them many times over, but they keep on bringing up the same old stories all the time and bagging on me about what they think because they can't get past, these things that they consider being wrong about my whistleblowing. But ultimately, they weren't there. Honestly, they just weren't there. They're couch potatoes. I mean, honestly, I'm like, so you think what are you going to produce for your facts then? Is this just your imagination and everybody's supposed to go with it? Well, why don't you produce some documentation like I have? And they can't. It's just my opinion. Well, there's only so far I think that people need to go when they're just having, they're just rude people, honestly, and they really don't have a really good reason for thinking the way they do, other than to just be nasty.
Right. Well, the good news is we get to see you and finally meet face to face in San Francisco coming up at UFOCon 2025.
Yeah, I was very surprised that they asked me to do that. So yeah, UFOCon is going to be there. I believe they're working on the Contact in the Desert for me. MUFON is also wanting me out in August. So I'll be making some rounds throughout the year. Plus, I'm writing my book. And of course, the First-Hand Fund is hopefully we'll be able to do some good things with that too. So I've got a lot of projects going. We'll see how things pan out this year. But I am looking forward to UFOCon. So that'll be in April, 4th, 5th, and 6th, I think. Is that right?
Yes. And people could go to UFOCon2025.com and pick up their tickets right now. I will put the website in here. Just give me a few minutes here. And Somewhere, sometime, I will actually get that done.
Yeah, and if you could find the link to the Firsthand Fund, that would be good so people can know that. And also my handle on Twitter or X.
Right.
Those are the best ways to contact me, is either through the fund or through my X account.
Yeah. I'll get my wrenches to do that. They're usually really good with that. Here's the link, everybody, to UFOCon 2021 or 2025. Gorgeous Kim Jellin, we'll see you in San Francisco. Yeah, we will. Here we go, everybody. Here we go with the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet. Reminder to all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Jason Sands is here. We have him till the top of the hour. He's a UFO whistleblower, hanging on out, telling his story about what's going on. Jason, you know, there's a lot of people out there who claim that the whistleblowers that are out there are actually paid disinformation agents, you know, to try and steer the narrative of the government into a threat, into whatever else is going on. What's your thoughts on this?
As I stated before, all of us whistleblowers are kind of on our own track. We don't coordinate amongst each other at all. Therefore, we get exposed to different people and different groups. Some of them have an agenda, some of them don't. And I think what we're seeing is that these groups do pull the ears of some of the whistleblowers one way and not the other. So there's going to be some differences about what they believe as well. I will never claim to know everything about extraterrestrial life at all. I've only had the experiences that I've experienced. And the same can be said about the whistleblowers. So there are going to be some differences of opinion because we all interpret these kind of encounters differently. And I think that's what we're seeing. It's like, I think one of the big things over the past week or two has been that Dr. Greer believes that this is all benevolent, that there's good NHI out there that want to help us, and I believe that that is true. And then you have folks that are more military minded, like Lou, who can also see a threat. And yes, there is a thread of truth about that as well, that there are some, I would think, other entities that we don't get along with or don't want to do us good. But overall, that the good ones seem to be able to have been protecting us for many millennia. Because if, again, going back to ancient texts, you know, the Anunnaki who wanted to enslave us, you know, there was that era ended. And then if you look at the Mahabharata, that there are stories about how they even waged wars here on Earth. And again, we survived all those different eras, as well as all the cataclysms of the Earth, you know, the Great Flood and probably an asteroid hitting the Earth and all these other things in our ancient past. So there's all these different things and different stories that are going around. And there's so many different opinions because of the difference of experience as well. And I would attribute most of the talking heads that are talking about whether it's all good, it's all bad, it's in between, it's a little bit of both, all those kinds of things, in my estimation, at least my take, is the good ones are in control. And that's all that matters to me. The good beings are in control. They're policing up things that we cannot, and they're the ones that have been protecting us all these years.
Who are these good beings?
I would say the Nordics. I've only had good experiences with them to a certain extent. The tall whites or the hybrid that I met in the desert, he was very civilized. I would count him as part of the good guys. The Greys seem to be less emotional from most accounts, but they, in general, are just, like worker bees. They're not there to harm anybody per se, but they're more their moral standards are not the same as ours. I think we've heard from other folks that have told us about the Greys that there's a certain type of gray aliens that are very involved in sciences, and in their culture, giving one's body uh, while you're still alive to science is considered honorable. So maybe they have less compunction about what they do when they abduct some of our people. And yeah, they might be taking tissue samples and all these other things for whatever reason they're doing it, but they don't have a moral uh, problem doing that sort of thing. So even the aliens themselves might have a different kind of lifestyle than we do, or culture where some things are acceptable that we consider not acceptable. I mean, because for us, we don't appreciate people coming in the dead of the night and abducting us, right?
Right.
I certainly didn't consent to that. And I'm sure none of them did either, but yet the Greys seemed to be perfectly okay with that. And for that reason. So, yeah, there's a lot of different things going on in this field that we don't have firm answers for. However, we do have some accounts that we can go through. And some of them actually do have some information exchange. And we can maybe piece that together a little bit better. And that'll help us out. But I think that's why uh, people like Dr. Greer, Lou have different opinions about what's a threat, what's not a threat, what's good, what's bad going on in this. So I find it kind of just part of the game because I don't think anybody can sit there and say they know everything about the universe. You'd have to be some kind of real egotistical person to think that you would know something like that, especially if you're here on Earth. I mean, and an Earthling on top of that. We've barely gotten past the cloud cover of our own planet, let alone what else is out there in the universe. So I think it's quite strange that some people are so very comfortable making these very sweeping statements about good, bad, and different. We need to be careful about that because uh, that might be a bit of misinformation for all we know. Uh, I mean, if we take it all for a threat, we're going to respond a certain way. If we take them all as friendly, we're going to respond a certain way. And in both of those situations, we could be taking a level of risk that is unacceptable. So we have to be very careful about how we step forward.
Final question before we get some audience questions here. Where are they coming from?
All
And
of
here
this,
Lou will say we don't know if it's outer space. We don't know if it's from Earth, from a different timeline, from a different dimension, time travelers. We don't know.
I agree. I agree. We don't know. I feel like the person that I spoke to in the desert came from a red star in the Leo constellation. I know of other people that were abducted that claim similar star systems out there. That the people they encountered are from other star systems. Um, so I honestly believe that they are coming from outer space and they're coming from within our own galaxy mainly, and maybe other galaxies to come here to Earth to study us. And it maybe some of them have been here for thousands of years and they're actually trying to help us to evolve. That may be what they're doing. And that seems to be the case according to some abductees. So yeah, I believe that they are a space-faring race. At least some of them are. Whether or not they're interdimensional, I have no idea why that claim is even out there, other than the fact that interdimensionality can help you fold space or travel long distances and kind of take shortcuts. That's what I've heard, that scientifically interdimensionality is a part of it. So I could believe that. I know we also know scientifically that time is malleable. In other words, it can be used um, as something as a force that you can actually go ahead forward in time or backward, and that those are things that science is now starting to break into. So I would say, yeah, all of those things are quite possible. And imagine, if time travel is a thing, I played with this in my mind. Think about it. If our Earth, many thousands of years from now, was dying, and we as a human race were going to die because our star had finally gone hypercritical, and we could travel in time, there'd be probably groups of us that would want to go back in time, perhaps to a happier time in space where things were happier, and so yeah, maybe it's some of us that's coming back in time to just enjoy, the nostalgia of living in the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, the 2020s. Maybe that's something that's appealing to folks in the future. Because if they're utilizing time and able to do whatever they want with it, that sounds like a viable thing. I mean, I'd probably like to do time travel myself.
All right, let's get to some audience questions here. Let's start with Mama Catherine here. Jay, if you had to do things over, would you still come out as a whistleblower?
Yes, I probably would have, because before March of last year, I was very much wanting to stay anonymous. So yeah, I probably would have remained a whistleblower, but I would not be a public speaking person about it. So yes, there are some things that would have changed.
What would you have changed?
I think I probably would have stayed anonymous, honestly, if things hadn't fallen out the way they did. That's what would have happened. That would have changed it. So I never would have went public. Yeah.
Super Crazy wants to know, are you participating in any film or TV projects about your experiences in the UFO topic?
Yes, there's another documentary that might be coming out that I'll be part of, either later this year or next year. But that's also involving other people that are being interviewed currently. I don't want to talk too much about it because it's usually taboo when people are filming to give away any Easter eggs and whatever. But yeah, there's another documentary coming out.
Okay, let's go to Human Carl. So your NDA only covers knowledge that you have of those things which are classified at a particularly security level, but it's okay for you to talk about seeing a UFO because it isn't classified?
Yeah, honestly, it is. I was outside the program when I had my encounter on the desert, or in the desert, and it was just a trip up range. It was a trip on the way to work, honestly. So it's totally unclassified, totally a surprise. It had nothing to do with my program that I was part of. It had nothing to do with classification of anything. It was just an event that was very strange that day, going to work.
Okay, moving on here. Let's go over to Xanos. With more and more whistleblowers coming forward, if and when do you think, Jason, the government will crack down on everybody?
I believe that the new administration has some hurdles to go through. I think what Paulina Luna is going to be doing with the declassification is a really good step in the right direction. That's something that they need to look at, because I know there are programs out there that have been hard for Congress to get any sort of a pulse on, and they need to start being a little bit more transparent, honestly. But along with the declassification that Luna is going to be doing, there also has to be some investigation, just like we're doing with Doge, where we're going to have to look at the budgets. Where's all these billions of dollars being spent inside the program? Can we get accountability on that? All of these things are going to be very telling. And then we have to I think that the next thing that's really important is we actually have to do, no kidding, site visits where we open every door on these sites that I've claimed and other whistleblowers have claimed to be working in. And somebody has to actually open all the doors and say, okay, what do you have behind door number one? And then they just go right down the line until they're done. And that needs to be done, accomplished. I feel as though they've made some phone calls maybe, and maybe a couple of site visits, but it was not a serious investigation whatsoever after all the whistleblowers came forward. So we need to do the declassification, and we actually have to go to these locations, and we have to go and open the doors, and we actually have to get the accountability that we need.
All right, let's go to another question here. Let's go to Pix here. Jason, is there anything of significant material importance you have not been able to share publicly due to your NDA?
Yes, there is. A lot of the stuff when it deals with the technologies that I can't talk about. The weapon systems, can't talk about that. I'm giving you a very good rendition, though, however, about the NHI presence within the program, the culture that is there. Those are unclassified aspects, the culture within the program. And that, I could tell you that the culture is that they don't want us to have technologies. If they do help us in any of the laboratories, it's very controlled and managed. So this is not a free-for-all technology exchange, but those are some of the things, and the slips of the knot there can get a bit tenuous, and I tend not to talk about that very often, about the technological exchange, other than the fact that it does happen, but that it is very managed. But there's a lot more to that when I make that statement.
Hillbilly Herb is asking, Jason, if you could go back to that day when you first saw the blue ET on the road, would you do anything different?
Yes, honestly, now that I've had time to think about it, I would have wanted to spend more time talking to the individual and asking some really good questions about who he is and his own people and how they have managed to get through all of the things that they got through, and trying to, just talk to him like another person from another experience, from another world. And they might have some insights and wisdoms that I never thought of. I feel like I wanted to spend more time with that individual to get to know them, honestly. Yeah, I do regret not having time to do that.
All right, let's go over to Sierra. Jason, when the blue being that you met up with telepathically asked you for thallium, did the being tell you what he was going to do with it to fix his spaceship?
Apparently, it was going to go into the aft part of the craft. There's like a black or dark egg-shaped fin that stuck out of the back. That's what was broken, and it wasn't so much broken as it was bent. I think is what he was trying to relay to me, is that it was still functional, but it just wasn't fully functional because of the damage that was on that craft. So it's more or less to help him to use some tools, I think, that he maybe has that he could use to restructure part of that part of the craft to help repair it. And I think that's all it was there for, is just that he needed a piece of that to replace the parts that were misaligned and bent and things like this.
All right, let's find another one. Paul here is asking, do you think the U.S. government is working with non-human intelligence?
Definitely, they are. I know for a fact that they are, yes.
Where are they doing this?
All over the place. You got to think, when you're talking about exotic materials, you're talking about very unique labs that are all across the world that have certain things they can do to test these kinds of exotic materials and flight test these types of craft. So these exotic materials are shuttled around all over the world to go to these different labs to be tested and flight checked. So yeah, there's a lot to that. Like I said, that I can't talk about on all these different locations where they take this stuff and how they take it from one location to the other. So yeah, there's a lot of different things going on with that. But just by virtue of the laboratory environments, they do have to move around that material quite a lot.
All right, let's go over to Jay. How or what is the correct process to go through if you have an NDA for one of these underground programs?
To be a whistleblower, I think, is that what they're asking? Yeah, I think I'm going to take that as being, if you want to be processed as a whistleblower, well, you can do it quite simply. You can contact me and DM me, and I'll get you in contact with folks. You can contact people in the Soul Foundation. I think they have an email. You can do that. If you're in the military, you can talk to your inspector general and send them in a letter, and they'll get you started. And you can actually go to Congress yourself. You can talk to your representatives in Congress and say, I want to be a whistleblower, and they'll get you in contact with the committee members that'll do so. So all of us are able to do those things. Anybody who's been through the process as well, like myself, can help you do that, whether anonymously or publicly.
We're going to get a couple more questions in, Jay, because we only got about 4 minutes.
Okay.
Stargazer's asking, Jason, do you know of any program with working with reverse technology?
Yeah. Or hybrid technology, I think, is another term for that. Yes, honestly, I've seen them in flight a number of times down in the panhandle of Florida. Yeah. And so there are some things there that people have been seeing for years now.
Paul's wondering, what are your thoughts on Stephen Greer saying UFOs are mainly U.S. technology?
I'd say that's a pretty good chance that a lot of it is. But the technology from the U.S. is also built off of other technological things that they do capture from time to time. So there's a mix of it both. It's not just one and not the other. I know for a fact inside the program that there were vanilla things that we reverse engineered ourselves, but there were exotic materials that were very frustrating for the scientists to deal with because they didn't know where it came from, they didn't know how it worked, and they couldn't talk to anybody because they were in a stovepiped job where they couldn't talk to other people. So yeah, there's a lot of that goes on.
All right, let's get to one more question from our audience here, and let's go to let's see here, let's go to picks. What question have you not been asked you've wanted to answer?
That I want to answer?
Yes.
Oh my, that's a tough question. Honestly, I wish people would ask a little bit more about the spiritual side to this. I have talked to so many folks that have had firsthand experience, like Chris Bledsoe, like myself, like many other people. There's a spiritual side to this that when they've made content, even Jake Barber describing how he cried, while he was transporting this. There is an aspect to this that is very beautiful, and it is very heart-wrenching, and it's all very profound to some contacts. I thankfully am one of them, and it's made me think very deeply about who I am, what I'm here for, and all those kinds of things. And it has a lot to do with who you are. Honestly, when you've had these kind of experiences, it makes you really think about what do you believe, what don't you believe about it. And you have some of these really profound thoughts sometimes about, that changes who you are actually here on Earth. And that's kind of what I wish people would ask more about, because that, to me, I think even the NHI would agree that they're more apt to want to speak to us about those spiritual things and encourage us in a good direction, rather than for us to constantly be focused on the next new cell phone technology and how we can reverse engineer it out of the programs. I don't think that they view that as being related at all to us being a successful race.
I know Lou Elizondo and David Grusch met with the Canadian government to discuss this topic, members of the Canadian government.
Yeah.
Have you participated in that conversation?
I did not know. I did talk to David Grusch a little bit, and maybe Lou, that yes, we do need to make this an international topic, because
Right.
It seems there are other nations that are very involved in this. Some of them more willing to talk about it openly, other ones more secretive. But we need to have this conversation on an international stage.
Jason, I want to say thank you for coming on Spaced Out Radio tonight. I could not wait to see you and meet you firsthand at UFOCon 2025 in San Francisco, California. If you want tickets, go to UFOCon2025.com and pick them up. I'll be there. Jason will be there. Many of the guests you hear on this show will be there as well. So come join us. Coming up next on Spaced Out Radio, we're going to head to the swamp, first and foremost. Then, right after that, extra small Lee Strauss will be in for the Cryptid Report. We're going to have a fun time in hour number 3. Stay tuned, everybody. It's going to be a lot of fun. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott. Thank you, Jason. Appreciate it, bud.
Yep, no problem then. So I'm out, and I'm glad we had a good 2 hour. That was some good questions too, by the way.
Thank you.
So thank you for inviting me on the show. I'm glad we finally got it done.
Well, we can do it again anytime, bud. We'll stay in touch.
Yeah, I'm finding there's 2 or 3 new things that pop up every month for me now. So I think that there'll be some more updates later on down the road.
All right, brother. You take care.
You too. Have a good night then, Dave. Thanks.
Good night. Jason Sands, everybody. I apologize I didn't get to everybody's questions, but I wanted to get as much of his story in there as possible. We'll bring him back. Don't worry. I'll be right back. right, I am back, and so are you. Now let's bring in extra small. How you doing, buddy?
Dealing with a little bit of headache, but other than that, I'm doing great, man.
You know, my eyes are so weak, it actually looks like it says Element XS on it behind you.
Yeah, it's all right. That's what glasses are for.
Yeah, I think I need my eyes checked. Big
Strong
thank you
pair.
tonight to Human Carl, Marty, Jeff, and Chill Farm for the great super chats. We appreciate the love and support, everybody. Mm-hmm. That was a fun interview, man.
Yeah, sounded pretty good.
I liked it. I liked it. We got 10 seconds. Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Always appreciate you tuning us on in as we prepare for Swamp Dweller and Extra Small Easter eggs. Hi to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Sage Ship. Sage Ship is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as a clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp.
Camping and hiking in the backcountry has always been my passion since I was old enough to go out on my own and travel to different locations. I've been fortunate enough in my life to be able to go to some of the most remote and beautiful places in the United States. Needless to say, I've seen some pretty strange things, and at times I've been downright terrified of the encounters I've had out in the bush. I've always believed in the supernatural and the unexplained. Having grown up in an extremely haunted house which sat on an old Native American reservation. But that's a story for another time. With all that being said, I still can't begin to explain what happened to me and one of my closest friends in the mountains of Arizona one night. After a long week of work, my friend John and I decided we would go to a well-known mountain range just north of Phoenix to hit up some of the off-road Jeep trails and spend the weekend camping at one of my favorite spots. For obvious reasons, I won't disclose the exact location, but if you live in the area, you probably know exactly where I'm talking about. After a few hours of driving across the rough terrain, we finally arrived at the trailhead. We parked our Jeeps and gathered our gear and began our half-an-hour hike to the campsite. The trailhead is not well known or heavily used at all. I've gone to the spot for years, and hell, sometimes I still drive right past it if I'm not looking hard enough. After a while of hiking, we finally reached the campsite. Now, this place is absolutely beautiful. It's right on the edge of the mountain overlooking the Salt River, and usually, there's not another soul for miles. I've made countless solo trips here and have always felt at ease, even after a close encounter with a mountain lion coming inside of my camp. But this time, I don't know, something was definitely off, and I could tell that John felt it too because he was a lot more tense than usual and seemed to be on high alert. We tried to brush it off and ignore it as best as we could, and got our campsite set up. After a few beers and sitting around a small fire later that night, we started to relax just a bit. It was starting to get late, so I decided I was going to call it a night. Just as I started to stand up, a rock the size of a baseball comes hurling out of the wood and nails a tree right beside my feet. What the heck? I stood there stunned for a second before reaching for my rifle. John jumped up and pulled out his pistol. "Hey, if there's someone out there, you better make yourself known right now," I yelled as I and John started walking in the direction that rock came from. We got no reply. No sound of footsteps, not even a slight breeze. It was dead silent. So much that my ears were ringing. After a few minutes of investigating the area and finding absolutely nothing, we returned back to the fire and decided it best to stay up and be alert for a little longer in case something else happens. About an hour goes by and John and I are starting to calm down and are just sitting around talking. All of a sudden, a large tree branch flies out of the trees and lands on John's tent, ripping a massive hole in the roof. We jumped up and both aim our guns in the direction that the branch flew in from. We fire a few rounds. Maybe this was not a good idea, but we did it anyway. We hear something massive tearing through the trees. At first we thought it was running away from us, but we realized it was running a circle around us. We shined our lights in all directions, trying to catch a glimpse of whatever or whoever this was messing with us. At this point, we were both shaken up and started gathering what we could to stuff in our packs and get the heck out of there. John grabs my arm and says, "Stop. Do you hear that?" He started looking back towards the edge of the mountain. At first, I didn't hear anything, but after a second, I could make out a low hum. It was a very low, but high-pitched whistle that was vibrating the ground slightly, but it was coming from about 50 feet past the edge of the mountain. Like, there was no possible way anyone or anything could be out there, unless it could fly. I started walking towards the sound slowly, scanning the tree line around me. As we slowly moved towards the edge, I lift up my light and shine it towards the unexplained sound. As I did, rocks and large sticks and even parts of a cactus flew in from off the edge, bombarding us. It was like shrapnel. We ran the full 30-minute hike in about 10 to 15 minutes to our jeeps and threw the few things we managed to grab in the back and just hauled absolute ass out of there. We never went back to the tents, and I haven't been camping in that place ever since. I've heard a lot of scary stories about that area ranging from Bigfoot to UFOs and even skinwalkers. But after those events, I still have no idea what terrorized us that night. I don't plan on going back to find out, but if you live in the area and know kind of where I'm talking about, if you are unlucky enough to stumble upon an abandoned campsite at the edge of a mountain, do yourself a favor. Turn around and go the other way.
Thank you, Swamp Dweller, for another crazy, spooky story. If you want more just like that, head on over to YouTube, type in Swamp Dweller, hit subscribe, ring that bell, and you can hear thousands of stories for free, just like that. Let's go to the Cryptid Report right now.
Hello, Jackie.
Major Lee Strauss, the extra small one here tonight with us. How you doing, buddy?
I am doing good, Dave. I just keep pushing forward through this headache. I will be perfect tomorrow.
Well, the main thing is you look good, my friend. You look very good.
No, I'm trying. I'm doing my best job here.
You are a skeptic of the UFO side of things. You have been investigating UFOs for a long time. You've filmed and documented weird, strange things in the sky that cannot be explained. I'm curious for you, when you hear somebody like Jason Sands come out and talk about his encounters and admitting that it is a trust me bro situation because there is no proof to bring out. There is no evidence. He can't. It's all locked up. It's a story. How do you define that in your realm of whether or not it's truthful or not?
Well, really, I watch the eyes. I listen to the story. If it sounds fishy to me, if it feels fishy to me, I may not believe it. But I've had my own experiences with UFOs and stuff, so I'm not likely to just discount anybody with their experiences. If they're looking up and they're like looking over here and looking over there, they're accessing part of their brain that are visual memories, right? And so instead of looking down or that sort of thing, so I'm watching the eyes, I'm watching the body language. I really pay attention. And you can tell when somebody's not telling the truth. It doesn't sound credible. There's little hits and misses here and there. But generally speaking, Dave, you can pretty much tell just by listening to a person like that.
I think part of my criticism of the UFO world is they keep saying, where's the proof? Where's the evidence? It's all trust me, bro type information. These guys are so locked up in their NDAs. There is no way that they could say, oh, by the way, here's the government photographs. Here's the government video. I brought it out. That's stealing. That's theft. That's breaking your NDA. I wouldn't put my family on the line, my pension on the line for anything. And I'm not defending Jason Sands here, but there is a common reality to this.
Yeah, there is, especially with a lot of these people that have been in the service, for the most part, they've probably seen something that's top secret. And, then again, they might have seen something else. But generally speaking, if you've already put yourself in that situation where you've seen something that you can't explain while you're on duty, it's quite possible you're going to see something like that off duty as well. And, maybe they feel a little bit more comfortable talking about an incident that they had, or that they've seen something in the sky or whatever on the ground or whatever it is, outside of their NDA, rather than the stuff that they actually have locked up behind an NDA.
Yeah, I want more.
Oh, yeah.
I do. Everybody else, I want more. But I can understand people's frustration.
Mm-hmm.
We've been told stories for 70 years and no proof. But the people who are in charge of that proof aren't just going to say, oh, by the way, here's what we know. It opens up that Pandora's box that they don't want to open. And I think that it's a big, how can we put it? It's going to be a big
slippery slope.
Bone of contention is what I was looking for with ufology until any sort of disclosure or confirmation happens.
Well, the Navy's come out and said quite a few things already, as we know, and they've released a lot of footage, but it's a lot of people say it's inconclusive, right? Everybody's still looking for the Holy Grail. They want to see a UFO on the ground and then the camera going around the outside of it, a camera going on the inside of it, and taking a look at everything in 4K high def. That's what everybody wants to prove it. And they want a president that will come out and say, hey, this stuff exists, and show us the receipts, basically, and like Rob G says, show us the receipts. For me, it's frustrating, especially with all of this that's going on right now. I'm just a citizen like many of you out there. But here I am with all this equipment, and I get great, photos, I get great video and all of that. But a lot of that's just brushed under the rug because I am a citizen. I'm not, I've never been a police officer. I've never had any official training or this or that, So a lot of this stuff that we video with our cell phones and that is just put in a big pile that says could be AI or, computer generated image or whatever the heck. So we're really looking towards our leaders right now to give us the evidence that we need. But
let me just stop you right there for a second. I apologize for cutting you off. It's easy for the government to release that evidence and say, or for us to say, release that evidence. We don't buy the evidence that they've already released. I mean, you have radar operator Kevin Day, who has been, probably one of the most honest people in his reaction to the 2004 Nimitz incident.
Mhm.
And he was talking about how he watched on his radar the object drop from 80,000 feet to 10 feet above sea level in less than a second. And it hit the brakes. That would kill a human being. And yet we have skeptics saying it was seagulls. We have skeptics saying it's ours, that it wasn't traveling these objects weren't traveling as fast as they were. The Pentagon coming out about the Go Fast video, which is a different event, okay, claiming, these fighter pilots were heard saying, look how fast it's going. And the Pentagon and Aero come out saying it was only going between 40 and 92 miles an hour. It just doesn't make sense. How are we going to believe? We're asking for the evidence. We're asking for the proof, but we don't buy the proof that is presented. That's a real catch-22, my man.
It is. And I don't know what more can be said or what more can be done, but we're still waiting for a bunch of files to be let loose by the government. They have to take this evidence. From what I understand, they've got to take it into a skiff and decide what they can release and what they can't before they can release it, which to me doesn't make any sense. If they want to come forward with the receipts, why don't they just do it? So I guess that's my big point of contention there. There's if we're not going to hide this stuff and we're going to let people know about it, we should just let people know. I do realize now, saying all that, I do realize that we have black programs that should be kept hidden, but the stuff that is not ours, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could just come out and say, yeah, there's aliens and from other planets coming here, or they're doing some sort of time travel or whatever, going through dimensions or whatever it is to get here, and just come clean with at least that evidence instead of, maybe keeping all the black program stuff behind a skiff. That's fine.
Love to see it. All right. You're here to talk monsters, my friend.
Yeah.
What you find for us tonight?
Okay. So, Baja California, Dave, on February 9th. Okay. We had a bunch, or actually two of these doomsday fish wash up on shore. Now, these doomsday fish are what are known as oar fish. And along with these oar fish that live at very deep depths, there was also an angler fish as well that also died when coming to the surface. As it was coming to the surface, the oar fish made it on to the beach and kind of just died. But these things are huge. These oar fish, anywhere from like 9 foot long to 20 feet long. And so there was two of these that washed up on the beach. Now, many years ago during Fukushima, before they had the big earthquake in Japan, there was like 12 of these fish that washed up prior to the earthquake in Japan. So they are thinking that it might be coming. The big one might be coming for California. So that's just, who knows if it's like gases that are rising up or if it's some sort of tectonic ultrasound sort of stuff that's going on in the deep ocean that are scaring these things out of the ocean and having them beach themselves. But that's a real possibility right now. So we're waiting to see.
Up north, between the northern part of California and British Columbia on the outside of Vancouver Island, there is an alleged sea monster called the Cadborosaurus. And many people actually believe that it's actually not a dinosaur, but oarfish that are swimming around and looking like these sea monsters. And it's very rare for an oarfish to actually make it to shore. the body of one. Like if it's been found more than 100 times, I'd be surprised. Not that I'm an expert on anything oceanic. I stay the hell away from the ocean as much as possible. But these things are huge, man. They can grow to 25, 30 feet.
Yeah, in some cases that's the case. It's pretty amazing. And you had an earthquake in Canada today too, by the way.
Yes, we did. It was
Now,
a 5.1, I believe, on the
yeah,
Richter scale. It happened on the Sunshine Coast, which is in between Vancouver Island and the mainland. And it was felt through Vancouver and into the lower mainland. Yeah.
yeah. So there's also been quite a few earthquakes up and down Oregon and California. Well, mostly in California, but in Washington, there's been a couple as well. And so, something's waking up, it seems, lately. So we definitely want to keep our eyes on the beaches and look for more oarfish or anything else that's coming up from the deep.
Well, it's interesting because I just Googled oarfish doomsday. You know what it says?
What's that?
In Japanese mythology, oarfish are viewed as harbingers of doom, signaling impending earthquakes.
Yep,
But
that's correct.
researchers in Japan debunked any significant link in a paper published in 2019.
Now, researchers. I'm a researcher of UFOs and that sort of thing too. So, with a grain of salt, let's go with that. And so I think it's very interesting if we see more of these things coming up, especially on our coastline over here on the West Coast. I think we may be in for it here shortly, but I hope not.
The West Coast is due for a big one. It really is. I'll never forget. Do you remember that big? Oh, we're going back, I think, to 2003, 2004.
Oh, yes.
0.9 that hit in Seattle.
The Nisqually.
Yes.
Yep.
I was just about to drive onto the Portman Bridge going to Vancouver. I literally just got on the bridge and you could see the bridge shaking. And this is a big bridge. And it's probably 40 stories up above the water.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because it goes from a hillside down into a valley on the other side of the Fraser River. And in the meantime, I'm listening to the radio, catching up on the news and sports, and here they are saying, "Oh, I think we're having an earthquake right now." And I'm like, this is the one place that I do not want to be, is at the beginning of a bridge that's 60 years old at this time.
No.
Scared the daylights out of me, man.
Yeah, it would. I was up in the rafters in a building that we were building, actually, up there doing some insulating, and all of a sudden all the rafters started shaking like this. And, we were in a 4-story building and everybody's hauling butt out of that building as fast as they could.
Well, just remember, if you're out in the forest and you see all of a sudden all the animals start running away, or you see, if you're near a farm and see the animals running away, something is happening.
Or yeah, if you got flocks of birds all of a sudden just taking off from the trees, all together, there could be something coming.
Oh, for sure, man. All right. I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to take our final break of the night. The Cryptid Report with extra small Lee Strauss continues on Spaced Out Radio right after this. I know he was scouring the internet looking for weird stories for your entertainment. We'll return to those very soon. This is Spaced Out Radio and your host, Dave Scott. Cool.
Yep.
Cool.
So I have a theory too that I want to go over on what may be happening is with all the seismic activity lately.
All right. I got one for you too.
All right. And then I've got a Bigfoot sighting as well.
Cool. Hi, Emperor Penguin. Hi, CS. Mike Bothwell is asking, if you had a poo-poo sample, what university or science institute would you trust sending it to?
I've put my thinking cap on for that one.
That's actually a harder question than it seems.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody will point to Jeff Meldrum. I think I know who I would send it to. I would send it to Dr. Michael P. Mansters. I would.
Yeah, I have no idea. I'd probably be calling around for sure. Get a bunch of different people help to weigh in on that one.
Well, Dr. Mike is a good friend of this show, and he is an anthropologist, a biological anthropologist out of Montana Tech. I would totally send it to him. Now, I'm not saying send all your poop there, but, you know.
Yeah, that's
I would trust him to do it. I would totally trust him to do it.
You'd have to keep half just in case it disappeared in the mail or something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, what part of the log do you keep?
Yeah. I don't know, man. Well, I'm sure there's plenty of like hair and, different things that they would eat in there, and, DNA and all of that. You might just dice it up and send it to a couple different people.
You know what? I got really like hardcore hunting friends of mine. And what you said makes exact sense, because the minute they see deer poop, or not deer, but bear or mountain lion or wolf scat, the first thing they are doing is breaking it open to see what that animal or that species is eating in the area.
Yeah,
Usually it's deer hair or rabbit, one of the two.
Well, then you would find them in those areas wherever that is, if it's blueberries or huckleberries or any of that.
And it's funny when the grizzly bears are eating, rose hips, which is a berry up here, a very hard, terrible, gross tasting berry that they love. Their scat turns bright orange.
Okay.
Yeah. And
That's
it looks
wild.
it looks like if you took about 10 cans of Campbell's soup, but filled with like pumpkin.
Okay.
That's what it looks like.
Crazy.
Yeah. I was so impressed seeing that for the first time. I actually took a picture of it, and now I can't find the picture.
Did you put anything next to it for size?
Man, it was huge. It was the largest deuce I've ever seen in the forest, man. Like I've only ever seen one grizzly bear in the forest, but whatever dropped that deuce, that was a big bear, man.
That's
Big,
enough
big.
to almost scare you out of there, though, too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Especially at the time that I wasn't armed when I was in there. I was in my
Yeah.
vehicle. I saw it from my vehicle, but even getting out of my vehicle, yeah. We're coming back in like 8 seconds. Thank you, Human Carl, Jeff, Steve Garvey, Marty Burback, and Chill Farm for the super chats. Appreciate your love, everybody. Don't forget, get your tickets to UFO Con on the website. Just add a .com at the website. Here we go with final half hour of Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Lee Strauss is here with the Cryptid Report. But before we bring Lee on, let's remind all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, our archives are always free on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Lee, you wanted to make a quick comment about what we were talking in the last half hour.
Yeah, absolutely. I read a story recently, Dave, where they're saying the spin of the mantle is actually slowing down. So if that's happening, could more heat be released because it's not contained in that spin? It's not pulling the heat into the source. It's actually now letting it out more and more. The heat from the mantle expanding outward, quite possibly, creating more earthquakes or more tectonic shifting, and also volcanoes and that sort of thing, because that spin slowing down isn't pulling the heat into the core as much. Does that make sense? But I'm wondering about that, because I read that story. I'm like, okay, the Earth core is slowing down, and now we're starting to see a lot more activity. Could this be tied together?
It could very well. There's no reason why it couldn't be.
Exactly. Just for those scientists out there that study that sort of thing, it'd be awesome to hear about it anyway. Maybe I'll look for a guest.
I have a story for you, my friend.
Okay.
One of the websites or one of the sites on Facebook that I love, and I'd love to interview these guys. I've reached out, haven't heard back from them. Maybe they don't do interviews. I'm not sure. But it's from this group called Creepy Acres. And when events happen of weird stuff, they usually will make a nice poster board of what happened on this date. So this one happened 1838, February 19th to 20th at 8:45 p.m. It started in Bow, London, England. 18-year-old Jane Alsop answers the front gate of her family's home on Bearbind Lane. She is greeted by a shadowy figure claiming to be a police officer who demands that Jane fetch a light, as he has just caught the terror of London spring-heeled Jack. As Jane hands him a candle, he throws off his cloak and reveals that he is, in fact, the infamous monster. Jane turns to run as blue flames erupt from the fiend's mouth, and as he begins slashing her with his clawed hands. Inside Bearbind Cottage are Jane's parents, both sick with rheumatic fever. Her young sister Mary and her older sister Mrs. Sarah Harrison. Hearing Jane's screams, her sisters rush outside. Mrs. Harrison pulls Jane from the demon's clutches, rushes her back inside, and locks the door, which the beast begins smashing against. Terrified, Mary runs upstairs, throws open a window, and screams for the police. This causes the villain to flee, bounding away in giant inhuman leaps. Later, Mr. Alsop takes his injured daughter to the nearby Lambeth Street police office, where she reported the attack.
What to think about a creature that has blue flames coming out of its mouth.
Indeed. Indeed, man. This is where it's scary.
It almost sounds like it could be like electrical in some way.
You would think.
Quite possibly.
But in 1868, nobody's running around with a battery pack, causing blue flames to shoot out.
No. There was a story, Dave, I think it happened up in Canada, where this hunter was out and he saw a craft. He went and climbed up in a tree. He saw a craft land, and there was some sort of a robot type of thing that came out and was trying to get him out of the tree, and it sprayed out noxious gas and all kinds of things, trying to get the hunter out of the tree. And it sounds kind of similar to that story. And it also had like blue sparks or something like that as well. So I don't know if they're tied in or similar things or whatever, but very, very possible.
Couldn't imagine being the parents hearing their daughter scream and knowing you're bedridden with a very bad sickness back in the day and you can't do anything about it. You don't have the energy.
Yeah, that's horrible. I can't even imagine, especially with your children.
You know what, though? From about the 1800s right up until probably the 1950s, 60s, we had some cool monsters back then, man. I want to know what happened to them all. Because I want to believe in this. I want to believe in the frogmen of Ohio. I want to believe in a lot of these ancient creatures. I call them ancient, even though we're only going back a couple hundred years. But I want to believe in all of these, man, and have them, out there. Werewolves. We don't hear anything about werewolves anymore. We hear of dogmen, no werewolves.
Well, you think about the 1950s and all the great black and white monster movies that came out, like the Swamp Thing and that sort of stuff, that came out way back when. And where did that stuff come from? Vampires and like you say, werewolves and swamp creatures, and all of that stuff must have came from some mythology that we used to have. People saw stuff that they did not understand, and so they decided to write it down, and it got picked up. And of course, when the story gets told many, many times, the story is going to change, but that's where that stuff probably comes from. And it's a great piece of Americana, and I'm sure that a lot of those creatures are just still out there, but we call them something different now.
I want to see them. I do. I look at, I don't know if you heard the show the other night where we had Jacob Rice on. And it was like a day or two after New Year's Eve in Washington State, where he lives. And he kind of lives in a rural area near a dead end road. And he actually had a black-eyed kid asking him for his phone. And long story short, his dog started going nuts at this kid. His dog loves kids, but his dog started going nuts on this kid. And this kid's asking to borrow his phone. So it was really weird because all of a sudden, he went to grab his phone and the kid is gone. When he went to check the security footage later on, he went to the part where he sees himself talking. He sees the dog guarding and then barking, and there is no video of the child on the other side of the fence.
Pure evil, man. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
That kind of brings up the next story that I would like to get into.
Let's do it.
The Bigfoot sighting, or Sasquatch sighting, here in Black Canyon, Idaho. A massive dark figure was seen crossing a trail. So there was a guy on an ORV, and he was on this trail with it, and he saw this black mass with big, big, tall, 8-foot plus creature crossing the trail. And it was covered in hair and all of that. But it was weird because he didn't see a whole lot of definition of it on it. He just saw that it was just this big black mass that had like all this hair. So you could see like the shadow of the hair on this creature. He assumed it was a Bigfoot. But what he says about it is kind of interesting, and how he talks about it. He said that it was made up of pure darkness. So it did not, like, he could see the blackness of the creature, but did not see like where it would change colors. It was just a black mass that looked like a Bigfoot crossing the road. So yeah, it seems really interesting to me. It was in the daytime. The sighting was in the day. So you would think that you'd have, the sun coming down, beating on it, and you would be able to see different color of the fur and that sort of thing. But in this case, he did not see that. And it's real peculiar as well, because in this location, there has been 5 other sightings of Sasquatch. However, as far as I can tell, this is the only time where it was seen this way, in this black mass form. Yeah.
Now, I have a buddy of mine named Mark who lives out, about an hour out of town. And he's in an area where there is no internet. You'd need Starlink or something, but he doesn't have it. And he was driving home a couple years ago where he had this black mass right along the ground of the road. And he said it was stretching from the shoulder of the road to the lines in the middle. And then it just kind of dashed off. Well, he said all 4s. But he said, Dave, this wasn't a dog. This wasn't a bear or any other animal that would be black. He goes, I don't know what the hell it was.
So this brings into my mind, because I've also had a black mass encounter as well. And I'm wondering if it's something trying to take shape and hasn't materialized. Some sort of a shapeshifter that's maybe its natural form is this black mass. And it'll just assume any figure it wants to when it wants to. But its natural form, like I said, is this black mass. So there I was. So I'll get into my story with this black mass. I was at Mount Baker, and there's a place that we call the electric parking lot, and it's framed with trees. It's this big dirt lot right before you go up the mountain. And the night we were there, it was cloudy, but we were still out looking for UFOs because, darn it, if we're going to see something come down through the clouds, we want to get it recorded. But we could barely see with our eyes the treetops during this time. It's so pitch black in there, and I don't know if it's our imagination, but more than one of us saw this thing. It was this undulating, moving like a caterpillar, like an inchworm over the tops of the trees, just undulating. And it must have been, I don't know, maybe 10 foot thick by 100 feet long. And it just kept going across the treetops all the way around us, because we were in the middle of this circle, with all the camera gear set up to look at the sky and whatnot. And we could just watch it go. And it was the weirdest thing. We didn't feel like threatened by it or whatever, but we don't know what this black mass was. And it's nothing that would come up on camera, like you say with the black-eyed children. You couldn't record it. I mean, we had night vision. At the time, I didn't have thermal, but you couldn't see it in the night vision either. So our eyes were able to pick it up, but cameras are not.
So weird, man. It's so weird how you get some of these things, whatever they are. I'm going to call them things. I know it's a very blue collar word, but that's what I'm going to use. That you can see with the naked eye, but you can't see on camera. Or you can see them on camera or on FLIR, but you can't see them with the naked eye.
That's true. There's a lot of that as well. I've caught things on thermal that I couldn't see with my naked eye. So I do understand that as well. It seems to me like something's trying to manifest, Dave. And for whatever reason, the way it's trying to manifest is either something you can't see with your normal eye, or you can't see it on camera, but you can with your eye. So it's this dichotomy, while it's trying to either form or it's already formed. It's just weird. I don't know if it's a spiritual type thing. I don't have any idea. I have none. I have no reference for it. So, and I don't even know how to study something like that. You can't bring the receipts for something like that, Dave.
Well, but it's the same thing as what we're saying about the whistleblowers earlier. It's a trust me bro situation on where that is. Yes, on a FLIR, you could take a picture of it. Yes, on a camera, you could take a picture. But if your own eyes are watching something happen right in front of you, like the black mass, like a UFO or something else, you go to take a picture and it's gone. Now all you have is a trust me bro. Right?
Yeah.
I want to get into one more thing with you, Lee, before we get going here, as we got about 5 minutes to go. So I go to my chiropractor earlier this morning, and he knows I'm all into this weirdo stuff. And believe it or not, so is he. He's a ghost hunter.
Mm-hmm.
And he says to me, "Hey, man, did you know that there are fairies in this area?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Our area, all the older houses, a lot of them have fairy gardens or used to have them." I said, "I have a fairy garden in my house, at my house." He goes, "Yeah, so do we." I said, "Why?" His neighbor across the street, who does not want to go public, is actually filming full-bodied fairies on his outdoor cameras.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's not just orbs of light. He said you can actually see the bodies of the fairies on his cameras. They're all different color.
Now, have you been able to look at any of this footage?
I just found out about this at about 8:30 this morning.
Wow. Definitely need to look at that footage. I'd love to ask him, what he's doing there. If it's like high speed somehow or something like that. I don't know, but it's interesting.
But it ties into what we were just talking about. If he goes and looks out the window, they're not there. Yet he can turn his head, look at the camera, and they're there.
Yeah. Well,
and literally, pardon me for cutting you off. He has no neighbors on either side of him. There's a brand new house that was built beside him. People don't even live there. The other property beside him has not even been developed. His backyard is a slope that overlooks the entire 108 Valley, including the Heritage Site Museum where I did the ghost tour.
Yeah.
Like, there's no human contamination on this, man.
That's wild. That's really wild. The one thing I will say, though, is with the human eye, I mean, we see between us frequencies, right? You can think about it as light. And cameras do the same thing. Cameras basically record in a frequency, right? A lot of the newer cameras pick up a lot of infrared light, but not so much ultraviolet. So what you have there is a gradient of light spectrum or frequency that a certain camera is recording that maybe another camera is just a little bit off of that, and our eye is a little bit different than that too. So it's very possible those things are living within a certain frequency, or at the moment in a certain frequency that our eye or certain cameras will pick up.
Very true. But I just found it interesting because I know at my house, my daughter, who's now 22, when she lived with us, she would go into our backyard or the green belt behind, and she would actually sit down and meditate, and she would claim the fairies would come in and land on her legs and land on her arms and in her hands.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's not something my daughter is going to make up. Now, I realize you have to trust me on that, but she steadfastly said, she went through a while there where she couldn't sleep at night because her claims were the fairies were all through her, would come in through the window. They would somehow morph through the window, and they would be all bright in her room. And it would literally keep her up at night until 1, 2, 3 in the morning. And now on the flip side, teenager, okay, texting with boys, texting with girls. I mean, high school drama, conversations, everything like that. It could have been that. Let's be real. But I want to take her at her word for it because it's a cool story. And sometimes a story, Lee, as we got about 20 seconds to go, a story is just amazing, and it's okay to believe every now and again.
I agree with you, Dave, 100%.
Way to eat up that time, Lee. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, Lee, we're going to say goodnight to you. Thank you for a great cryptid report. Really appreciate you coming on. And of course, we say rocking in the background with little brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio. Rocking us in and out of every single show. Put your horns up to the guitar, God himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, Hellcat, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, Space Travelers Club, and on X, hashtag Spaced Out Radio.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. Good job, Sweet Lee.
Thank you, sir. Thought you were joking about the, taking up the time. I thought you meant like the last 20 seconds or whatever, but.
Oh, no, I wasn't joking.
Yeah.
Thanks
okay.
Buddy, appreciate the 2-second answer.
That's what I was going for. The 2-second answer. Yeah.
Oh, man. I don't know, Mike. I can't remember the story if they talked to her or not, but they trusted her enough to land on her.
Well, I've heard other stories of fairies, so it's not. It's definitely something I'd like to look into. I do believe in them. It's. There's a lot of fairies in the Swedish culture. So red hats, which we call Tumtegubens and other things. So it's definitely interesting. I'd like to learn more about it.
Oh, bear with me here 2 seconds.
Mhm. There are those crane flies too that look like they've got these dangly legs.
Oh yeah, we have those here too.
Yeah.
But they're not purple, pink, and yellow, and orange, and red, and yellow, green.
No. Nope. No. Definitely not. Mhm. Hmm. I love reading through all the chat stuff here.
It's funny. I only had one real negative comment. I probably one of the trolls I banned recently, but they jumped on Twitch.
Oh.
Yeah, they jumped on Twitch and they were like, when I read the Reddit complaints about Jason, that I was being passive aggressive.
Hmm.
And that I might as well cut Jason off and go on a 20-minute rant about 2017 and how they killed ufology and all this kind of stuff, right? It's like,
Yeah.
okay, if you want me to, I will.
You can save it for the 101. 101.
The fun part, Lee, is when everybody bitches, but eventually you get to say, I told you so. That's what I
Yeah. Yeah, that is good. That makes you feel good. Like, yeah, well, I knew.
I don't mind.
Oh no, definitely not.
Mind at all.
So what's with you splashing all these horrible pictures all over Facebook lately?
What are you talking about?
Just because you guys won in hockey. I mean, holy cow.
What are you talking about?
Well, your Canadian Goose beat our bald eagle pretty badly.
You know what? Honestly, it was. I was going to keep quiet on that today because I kind of said my piece last night after the game, and on Facebook and on X. Let's see. Today I was called disgusting, a hater of America. I just want to remind my American friends, America is not a country. It is a continent.
Mm-hmm.
North America, Central America, South America. Central America is part of North America. America is not a country. The United States of America is a country.
There you go.
So that's just me being a red pen asshole right there. But let's see. I got called woke. I got called a Trudeau lover. I mean, that's insultive right there.
Oh boy.
Totally insultive. Call me anything you want, but don't call me that. That's as bad as me a soccer fan, right? There's just certain things you don't do. Let me see. I got told I had no class. I got told that I hate my American listeners who support me, and they're all going to leave now.
That's not true.
let's see here. What else? The woke one was funny.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
yes, it's funny.
I think that the other one too that I enjoyed was that I hate Americans.
Well, they don't understand that, this is part of games, right? Any kind of sports games, you're going to have one team versus another team. It's just, a little bit of elbow in the rib, and and then you carry on. It's not that big a deal, but it's unfortunate people getting their feelings hurt so bad over, just a little bit of.
Well, it's funny because I would love to go. I'm in a horrible position because I very much pay attention to politics on both sides of the border. But
Mhm.
because of my position, because of the business, if all of a sudden I were to come out and say I'm pro Trump or I'm pro Kamala,
Mhm.
I'm a dead man either way.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
lose half my audience.
Mhm.
Okay. It's
Yep.
it's like the meme I put out. Okay, where literally it's my son. It's my son, the merman. Remember? The Zoolander when he finally nails Magnum.
Mm,
That's
yeah.
my son. Anyways, I put out an AI meme that I found. It was of the White House burning, well, the rooftop burning,
Yeah.
with the Team Canada standing outside in their skates having a beer. Now, a lot of people will say that that's mean, that's cruel. Why bring politics into it? Here's the thing. I'm going to explain the Canadian answer to that.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't mean that I hate the United States. I love America. I love the United States of America. Outside of your health care, which scares the living hell out of me, not the fact that you actually get coverage quickly, because that's kind of cool. But thank God I don't need an EpiPen or anything like that. I wish the borders were a little bit more open in a way that we could travel freely the way we did prior to 2001,
Mm-hmm.
where I could go across the border and not be looked at as a suspect, but more so as a human being, where I could travel anywhere. And I can now. It's tedious. That trust is gone, and unfortunately it's going to be gone for a long time. But getting back to what I was saying, in Canadian humor ways, we're a little bit wry, we're a little bit sarcastic, we're a little bit, hey, we got you. Okay. So the meaning of that meme wasn't that, oh, look, we won a hockey game, now we're going to burn your White House down. No, it doesn't mean anything to do with that. It's a historic picture of, hey, we got you in 1812, and now in 2025 we got you again, but this time on ice. And now, as us crazy Canadians are, we're going to enjoy a beer over it. It had
That's
nothing
right.
to do with Trump. It had nothing to do with the 51st state bullshit that's been going on. It has nothing to do with Trudeau. It has nothing to do with anything. And we all had a bunch of us had a good laugh over it. Even a lot of my American friends had a good laugh at it. My American cousins had a good laugh at it.
Yeah.
But there are a few out there who were threatening me, acting tough, internet tough, trying to play their political positions against me. I left it all up if you want to go read. Right? But in no way was it meant to disrespect a country that I love.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate your country, but I want to move there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Well, it's, a lot of us understand that, kind of jeering. I mean, and some people, I just think that they're so uptight right now because they've seen so much garbage on Facebook. So, I mean, everybody needs, as far as I'm considered, everybody needs to settle down a little bit and
I'll give you
relax.
an example. I'll give you an example of something that happened yesterday during the hockey game. At the beginning, when the U.S. national anthem came on, my 11-year-old son started to boo. Now,
Ooh.
he's not booing it because of the politics that's going on. He's booing it because he's cheering for Team Canada. And me as a parent, this is what I did. I turned to him. I said, quiet, never again. I said, you never boo a country's national anthem. I said, and I didn't yell at him. I wasn't stern with him, but I gave him an explanation that the national anthem is a very major part of a country. And I said, the Americans do a lot for us Canadians. And I said, you will not disrespect the United States anthem, the Canadian anthem, or any anthem after that. You won't, because that's not respectful to the people who love their country.
That's correct.
Right? And you know what? He learned something. He learned it the hard way. I mean, I didn't punish him or anything, but he knew it pissed me off.
Yeah.
Right? But he had to learn. So I had to teach him. That's my job as a dad.
Right.
Like I could, like all of this booing of the national anthem stuff that's been going on. I hate it.
Yeah.
It's rude. It's disrespectful. Do I understand why it's happening? Yeah, I do. Because politically speaking, North America is a shithole right now in politics. And we're trying to make it better on both sides of the border.
Yeah.
All right. Whether or not it's working, that's in your opinion. Okay. But there is never a time to boo an anthem, and there is never a time to show disrespect. And my fellow Canadians who were booing the anthem, it pissed me off. It pissed me off.
Yeah.
And I can say that like for me, when I go to a sporting event, I love the Star Spangled Banner, man. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous song. It really is. Thank you, West Area 53. I'm not leaving unless you have ugly swag. No, I don't have ugly swag, man. Never be ugly swag. But what I'm saying is, like, I don't know how to say this, but I hope everybody took me on yesterday when I said, go watch, I don't know her name, but watch the lady who sang the national anthem at the hockey game last night with the orchestra behind her. I have not heard an American national anthem sang so beautifully since Whitney Houston.
No.
It was freaking amazing. Her voice, her connotation, the entire like all the people who were there watching the game in the stands, literally singing along with her.
Yeah.
And I'll guarantee you that there were a lot of Canadians down there singing the U.S. national anthem with our American brothers and sisters, because that's what we do. If I go to a sporting event, let's say, even if I went to a Canucks game in Vancouver and they were playing, say, Anaheim, where they play both anthems, I would sing the U.S. national anthem because it's respect, right? I don't expect that if I go down there because, I mean, many people in the U.S. think there's a province called Moosehead, right? So I understand that the respect is not returned at times. It's not to be disrespectful, okay, but I'll leave that part be. That's why I get bugged when I hear, yeah, in Vancouver, Canada, or Toronto, Canada. Really? You live in New York. We're only like 300 miles above you, or if that.
Yeah.
Say Toronto, Ontario. Or if you're in Seattle, oh, you live in Vancouver, Canada? Have you ever been to British Columbia? Yeah, I've been to British Columbia. Well, then you know where Vancouver is. It's Vancouver, British Columbia, not Vancouver, Canada. I don't sit there and say Albuquerque, USA.
Right.
Right? So I guess the whole point, now that you got me on this rant and tangent, I can't even. This is your fault. The point that I'm getting at is in North America, the one thing that we have in common is, man, there is a thin paper line on the ground that says what's called the 49th parallel, which says what is Canada and what is the United States. And you know what? The beautiful part about us is we're stranded on this continent alone. We don't have 30 countries surrounding us. We have beautiful waterways. We have beautiful people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We have, beautiful ethnicities. If you ever go to Toronto, and I've never been to a lot of bigger U.S. cities, but I've been to Toronto. And if you've ever been to Toronto, as much as it kills me to say this because I hate the Maple Leafs so much, okay, and I hate the Raptors, and I can't stand the Blue Jays. Toronto is a melting pot of awesomeness when it comes to culture. Vancouver is like that.
Yeah.
And when we put it all together, man, we're like brothers and sisters, man. There's with a 49th parallel surrounding us. There's a reason why there's never been a wall put up between Canada and the US. There's a reason why we just trust each other. Mainly because we know you're scared of us. You're 0-2 against us, right? You're 4,000 jet fighters to our 66, right? But do things need to improve? Sure they do. But realistically, we need to calm the hell down.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get back to having some fun, some good old ribbing.
Yep.
Okay. My boss today at my daytime job, okay, I made the mistake of telling him I was having a fat day. I was having a fat day today. Dude, I got ribbed how fat I was looking all day. Did it bother me? Not one bit. Why? Because it was just good old-fashioned ribbing.
Yeah.
It wasn't bullying. It wasn't being insensitive due to my weight gain. Okay? It was nothing. It was just good old-fashioned ribbing. And guess what I did? I was so offended by it, I laughed back. Because it was funny. Remember those days when things were funny?
Oh, yeah.
Laugh.
Yeah. I hope you found something to get him back with, though,
I actually did. I can't remember what it was now, but I actually did. He was just like, fuck you.
It's perfect.
But he was like, that was good. That was good. I'm like, yeah. So just one of those things,
Yeah.
And hopefully one day I get my pointy sticks. I can bring my pointy sticks out of their hiding spot.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that we definitely need the laws to change that way a little bit.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Look, neither of our countries are perfect by any way, shape, or form. But you know what, guys? In the end, I don't care what anybody says. We have it pretty freaking good here.
Yeah.
You.
Yep.
We have it real freaking good here. And why do we have it good? Because we all worked hard to make it that way. And now it seems like we're hell bent on breaking it all down.
Yeah, that's true too.
Right? And it doesn't matter whether you're on the left or on the right, or whether you're a centrist. We're all at fault. The extreme left is at fault. The extreme right is at fault. And where everybody's happy is when everybody is at the center.
Yep.
And you give a little, you take a little. And as long as you're not paying through the roof and you're actually able to, maybe allow one of your partners to, if you have young kids, to stay at home with their children. Right? I don't care if it's the husband or wife. Don't care.
Yeah.
When you're not barking over stupid crap like a hockey game. Remember when we used to be able to watch sports and then rib afterwards because your team won? That's what it was. Right? So, yeah. If somebody, like the other meme that I put up was that people took offense to was a Canadian hockey player sitting over top of a bald eagle that was cooked like a turkey.
That one was pretty good. I had to laugh when I saw that, for sure.
Okay. Now, once again, just so you know, Canada has, my favorite bird is a bald eagle. And I live in it. I've been fortunate my entire life to live in areas where there's a lot of bald eagles. So you kind of take it for granted. I actually, going back about 14 years ago, I had friends come up and they were blown away by how many bald eagles they saw up here. Because down in Florida, not a lot of bald eagles. And, the humor behind that is it's stupid Canadian humor. Right? We get it. We don't mean any insult to it. We don't live in Vancouver. Right? But a lot of Canadians right now are pissed off. They're pissed. They're pissed off people. We have a government that's ruined our economy. That we have a prime minister right now, and I'm not putting him down or anything as much as I am dissatisfied with him, but that's irrelevant to the conversation, who racked up more debt than Canada's previous 45 prime ministers.
Wow.
So you add all of their debt from the day Canada started with John A. Macdonald to Stephen Harper, who was the other prime minister before dear leader took over. They do not combine for the amount of debt that Trudeau created in the last 9 years. My grandson will be paying his debt. So just so you should know, with the taxation in Canada, we're a country of about 41 million people. Do you know how many of those are in the working population that are paying off that $1.6 trillion debt that we've never had before? 22 million. So prior to the craziness of those taxes, he now costs me, every individual, working individual, so 22 million people, it's almost half. Because when you account for seniors, when you account for children, okay, and the disabled who can't work, you have to take care of them. 22 million people now have to pay a $1.6 trillion debt, which adds into my pocket, and as one of those 22 trillion, another $4,000 a year in taxes. So let's say in Canada, you pay. Let's say in Canada you make $100,000 a year.
Yep.
Okay, it's good money, right?
Yeah.
Say, I think everybody would agree $100,000 a year is no income to laugh at. That's a good income. Doesn't matter whether you're working at the mill, you're working in the mine, you're a doctor or whatever it may be. 100 grand a year, a good salary. I just want to be accurate here. All right. So if you make $100,000 a year, your federal income tax, your provincial income tax equals out to close to 50%.
Oof.
Oh, pardon me. More. Probably if you add in both provincial or provincial tax and income tax. At $100,000 a year, you're probably paying close to 52 to 56% in taxes.
Over half.
Over half. Okay. Then on top of that, now you pay tax on everything that is bought. So they tax the food coming into the country. Now they've added a carbon tax for the food that's coming into the country, to a carbon tax that is included now in gas prices, which you pay your federal and provincial sales tax on. So they're taxing taxes here. So the average person who makes $100,000 a year in Canada, at the end of the year, when they've bought their food, when they've paid their car payments, paid their mortgage, paid their insurances, okay, they are left with approximately $22,000 to $28,000 spending money a year. But wait, there's more.
No.
You haven't paid for your hydro, your cable, your internet, your cell phones. Yeah. That's the reality of living in Canada right now. Now,
No.
I will say this. I'm on, for my anxiety and my heart rate, because I have high blood pressure, I would be absolutely petrified to find out what my price would be on medication down there.
Oh yeah.
So I got 30 days worth of my heart pills, my blood pressure pills, and it cost me $3. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there are benefits. Canada's a very highly taxed country. But I will say this. There are good taxes and there are bad taxes. I have no problem paying taxes for Medicare. Let's say you traveled up here, Lee.
Yeah.
Say you traveled up here and you hurt yourself bad. Okay, let's say you're in a car accident. I have no problem paying taxes so that way you get to live. Sure, you might not get surgery right away.
Right.
Say if you could wait for it. I mean, they're not. See, the misconception down there is if you need a new heart, you're going to be waiting 3, 4, 5 years. We don't have the population, okay, to get you a heart within a month, 2 months. But so you're put on a wait list. But let's say you need a heart now. Like you're going to die within the next 72 hours if you don't get that heart.
Yeah.
If there's a heart that's available and you are compatible, you get bumped to the top of the list. Okay. Now, some people pass away in that time. But you got to realize, once again, there's only 41 million people in Canada. 4 million of those, the majority of them are on student visas. So if you take those away, you're down to a let's say a 37, 38 million population. Okay.
Yeah.
How do you find a heart? When you have 360 million people and they have no problem for $1 million flying a Learjet from New Hampshire to Washington State to get you that heart.
Well, you also got, Dave, with that, you've got more people that could be injured too. So, there's
Absolutely. The more the
Yeah.
population, the more chance of getting injured.
Mm-hmm.
True. But, the waiting lists at our hospitals suck. But our hospitals, due to the Medicare, okay, people take it. Unfortunately, there are people who take advantage of it. Okay. And I'm sure that, down there where they're paying for a hospital visit, I don't know what the cost is, but for paying for a hospital visit, I think it's harsh that up here you get people who are almost hypochondriacs, that they get a little cut, on a rock while walking through the creeks, and all of a sudden, well, it's got to be infected because of the water. There was water on it, and I got to go, I got to go get it checked for infection. No, you don't. Put a Band-Aid on it. Right? But people take advantage of it.
Clogging up your system up there with all of the, people that are. Yeah.
Add to the fact that we don't have enough nurses. We don't have enough doctors. And it's troublesome. Believe it or not, the majority of Canadian doctors that are graduating every year are getting jobs in the U.S. because you guys have a shortage of doctors. So you can become a doctor here starting at, say, $150,000, or you can go into the U.S. and have a starting wage of $250, or even $150 American, which is $220 Canadian. Where are you going to start?
Yeah.
All of our engineers, there's one school in Ontario that produces engineers like anything. Some of the best engineers in the world, these kids coming out of this school. I believe 80% of them are being scooped up by American companies prior to graduation. So when they graduate, they've already got a job coming out.
It seems to be that way all around the world, bringing people in. I'm constantly doing that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Up here, you're not paying $50, $60, $70, $80, $100,000 for schooling to attend a certain type of university. Like, I think UBC is like $8,000 a year, $10,000 a year. But that also comes with perks too.
Yeah.
So, not everything is free up here. You get debt after debt, but they are taxing the piss out of us, man. And when you have a government that we just are finishing up with that won't leave, they're like a fungus on your foot that just won't get out. Right? You get screwed, man. I know the majority of people that I know up here, because of the economy, have not had a vacation in almost 10 years. Right? Remember what you look at. Here's one for you. What's the average cost of a home in the United States?
Yes, you guys are more expensive up there.
So the average price of a home in the United States right now, which increased 17% since 2020, is $419,000. The average price of a home in Canada right now is $900,000. And the more so Vancouver right now has the highest property rates in the world, or they're number 2. So for $1.2 million, you can buy a house in Vancouver that's probably 1,200 square feet, at minimum 60 to 70 years old, probably needs gutting. Okay.
Yeah.
And you can go to Texas and buy a $400,000 home on acreage. The home is a palace with a separate 4-car garage, swimming pool, for $400,000, which in translation in Canadian dollars would probably be about $600 to $650.
Yep. It's upside down.
Yeah. And we are getting hammered everywhere. Right?
Yep. Well, gives us a lot to think about too. I mean, we all seem to be stuck in this space right now, and you know, with your economy up there, I do hear things about your economy up there, and I keep track of stuff, and it's sad. It really is that nobody can afford a home up there. It seems even your condos and your apartments are just, the cost of those are outlandish.
Mm-hmm. We make the gas.
Yeah.
Okay. We make the gas for North America. As much as people are being told that you don't need our gas, you need our fucking gas and oil. The oil pipeline is that way about 3 miles. Okay. The pipeline that goes down to Vancouver and down into Washington State is 3 miles from here. So you get, just so you know, you get our gas at a discount rate. You're paying, what are you paying for gas right now?
$4.39 is where I'm at.
And that's high for you.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm paying close to $9.
A gallon or a liter?
$9 a gallon.
Okay.
Or $7. Let me see here. Gas prices, liter to gallon. Okay, so where's the gas calculator here? So let's go. I'm $1.58. Come on. $1.58. Oh, this stupid site. It's got to be something easier here. Form calculation.
People are chiming in here.
What is your gas right now? You're 4.
I'm at 4.39.
Okay. So that would cost me in Canadian dollars. That would be $1.13.89. Yeah. No part. Yeah. 1.139 cents or dollars per liter. Okay. I'm currently paying $1.58 a liter. How do I calculate this? Cents per liter. Where's the calculation button?
Wouldn't that be 3.15? I think is what somebody said over here.
Above. So let's go. Try calculating that. This site makes no sense. Convert gas price. See if this one's easy. So if I go here, you're in Canada. Where am I? I'm in Canada, right?
Be times 3.15.
Equals USA. That doesn't seem right.
You said 155?
I'm paying $1.59 right now.
So basically $5 and some change.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm a little higher than what, lower than what I thought. We make it.
Mm-hmm.
Go look what Venezuela is charging for gas. Go look what the United Arab Emirates is charging for gas, or Dubai, or even go to Texas. Compared to what we're paying. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I believe, let me see here. How many cents per liter of gas is tax? Let's see here. So the British Columbia sales tax alone, before you pay, or their tax on gas, is 14.5 cents a liter. Federal government is let's see. Federal government is 9 cents per liter. So there's a quarter.
Yeah.
Now we have to pay, it's going to go up another 61 cents a liter on carbon tax.
On carbon tax, yeah.
As of April 1st.
Oh.
Yeah. And then on top of those taxes, you now have to pay PST, provincial sales tax of 7%, and federal GST, goods and services tax of 5%. So you're actually getting taxed on the taxes you were already paying on the fuel tax. Cool, eh?
It's ridiculous, sir. Ridiculous.
Yeah. So, anyways, not to dumb down the show with politics and taxes and everything, but getting back to the original topic, because I know you're getting tired and I'm getting tired. To wrap it up, it's Canadians are hurting. We're hurting politically. And then when your most trusted ally starts talking about the 51st state, whether they're joking or not, which at first I still think it's kind of just political posturing as a joke. But people up here with Canada's inferiority complex, they take it seriously. And people have just had enough. They're tired of being beat up here. And Canada is losing a bunch of population to other countries right now because people are just done here. They don't want to be. But with people being able to work online now, where you can work anywhere in the world, why wouldn't you go to Thailand where you can rent a townhouse and pay all your bills for a total of 1,500 Canadian a month, whereas you rent a place in Vancouver, an 800 square foot place for close to $2,500 or more a month.
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
That's the way it is. People moving.
Yeah. So, but don't boo the national anthem. That's just dumb.
Yeah.
Don't need that crap. Right? Yeah.
Definitely not. There's no reason for that.
Yeah.
We're proud people on both sides of the border.
Yeah. And you know what the best part about it is? We love each other.
That's right.
Most Americans or most Canadians have at least one relative who lives in the United States and married an American. And I would say probably at least half, maybe a quarter to a half of Americans have a Canadian partner.
Yeah.
We're one, man.
That's right.
Let's just have some fun.
Amen.
Yeah. And to leave us on this big thought of the night before we say goodnight and turn things over to Sweet Robbie G for the weekend, let's all remember that Joe Monk cuts his own ear hair.
I saw that.
Yeah. He has confirmed it in the chat room that he cuts his own ear hair. Yeah. And basketball still sucks, Rob. Still sucks. Mm-hmm. By the way, here's a prime example before we go. I stepped out for the break last night. I had the picture of the hockey of the AI hockey player. Okay. Rob jumps into StreamYard, changes that, and puts a note on there about how much I hate hockey. I thought that was hilarious. Okay. That was hilarious. It made me laugh because guess what? It was funny.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't insulting me. Many people may have been offended by him doing that. I was not. That shit was funny. That was very funny. It's because of brotherly love. Hi, Ozzy Ange. How are you? That's brotherly love right there. Right?
Yeah.
Because he knew I would get it. Even though he's wrong. 100% wrong. But I love the yeah. Can't tell a hockey puck from a taco salad, but we still love Sweet Robbie G around here.
Don't bite on that.
You got that right. Make sure you tune in for Sweet Robbie G, and don't forget that if you are going to be in the San Francisco Bay Area coming up the first weekend of April, go to UFOCon 2025. Let me read off the list here for you guys. Who's going to be there? You guys will like this. Art Fraser, Brian Jackson, Craig Campobasso, former guest. Darcy Weir, former guest. Dr. Jerry Krauth, don't know him yet. I'm going to learn him. Dr. John Blitch, we're going to learn about him. Dr. Raymond Keller, learn about him. Dylan Freeman, founder of the Rafos Network. Jason Sands, Dr. John Brandenburg, John Mylor, two former previous guests on the show. John Stewart, filmmaker. Leela Hutchison, former guest. Lorian Fenton, who puts on the event. Great person. Martin Willis, been a former guest here. Mary Electra, don't know her that well. Melinda Leslie. Michael Walker, former guest. Michelle Miners, haven't met her yet. Misha Johnson, been a former guest. Science Bob is going to be there. Robert Perella, former guest. Robert Potter, the best mustache in our business. Ron Felber is going to be there. And Solaris Blue Raven, another former guest, going to be there. It's a great lineup. Come to San Francisco. Meet us there. Lee, thanks. Thank you tonight to Search and Destroy, Area 53, Human Carl, Marty, Jeff, Steve Garvey, and Chill Farm for the super chats. And we'll talk to you guys after the weekend. And I got to find a guest for Monday because Lon can't make it. So I'll find someone by then, I hope. Good night, everybody. Have a good one.
Good night.
See you later.
Later.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
You need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.